Good morning, good afternoon, bonjour, bon dia, tanastaling, salbona, and salam alaikum. I wish I could greet you in all of your languages, but I'm sorry today I'm limited with English. But it is so good to see the chat active and so many faces filling up my screen today. And I'm honored to be the first one to welcome to you to #YALI for Ag. Today, we have our Youth Innovation for Resilient Agriculture live stream. My name is Brenda Soya. I'm the Director of Africa Regional Services, which is part of the Africa Bureau of the Department of State. I'm a Foreign Service Officer and have spent much of my career working on and with issues on the continent, and I am honored to be the one to welcome you today. I'm starting with a few details. Please make sure that you have clicked the interpretation globe on the menu at the bottom of your screen to choose English, French, or Portuguese. We will also be live tweeting today's event and taking questions on social media. So make sure you're tweeting #YALI4Ag, #NextGenYali, and #International Youth Day. To send your questions, please tag the Wilson Center Africa program on @AfricaUpClose or send an email to africa@wilsoncenter.org. I know all those hashtags and those emails will be appearing in the chat very soon. We have several wonderful segments to make up today's program because we know that one rainstorm does not make enough crops to grow for harvest. That was one of my favorite proverbs working in Togo. So our lineup today, we have our keynote speaker, Mr. Tion Niang, who arrived from Senegal to the United States with $20 in his pocket. He became a farmer, social entrepreneur, political strategist, and author. He will sow the seeds for the following panel discussions that tie agribusiness, agriculture with youth, and their opportunity to transform the continent's development. We all look forward to the closing video that will conclude our celebration of 10 years of YALI and bring us into its 11th year and beyond. You know, I've said YALI a few times, the Young African Leaders Initiative. You know, it is one of those momentous memories that even State Department people say, where were you when YALI began? For myself, it began as an important event of finding 3 Togolese to attend the first YALI in the US. And it has gone beyond our wildest dreams and expectations now. YALI grew from 115 young leaders to include more than 25,000 alumni of the Mandela Washington Fellowship Exchange Program, 4 regional leadership centers, and an extensive digital community called the YALI Network, with more than 700,000 members. It's like mango season in West Africa, when the trees just keep giving and giving more fruit. All of these programs aim to strengthen democratic institutions and good governance. They spur economic growth and prosperity, and they foster peace and development in Africa. And each one of these goals depends on agriculture. And that's why we're here today. We will be exchanging ideas. The United States is very concerned about the negative trends in Africa with food security and malnutrition over the past 2 years. Years of progress addressing famine and advancing agriculture-led growth has been subverted by conflict, COVID-19 pandemic, and climate. The United States seeks to address these problems in a comprehensive way. 1, looking to resolve conflict. 2, to mitigate climate-induced famine. And 3, to build back better following this COVID-19 pandemic impact on food and food systems. Some of these transformative ideas are going to be shared today as we celebrate the theme of Global Youth Day. Transforming food systems, youth innovation for human and planetary health. So let's get started. #YALI4Ag. And remember, we're looking for your comments and questions at africa@wilsoncenter.org. And don't forget to Twitter as well. We are extremely pleased to be working with the Wilson Center of International Studies to explore these challenges, opportunities, and actual innovations for transforming Africa's agriculture to create resilient food systems. We will address the barriers that prevent youth from engaging in agriculture and agribusiness, and the discussions will offer practical ideas and recommendations for Africa's agriculture sector, to achieve food security and youth engagement in the face of all the climate challenges. I would be amiss without saying thank you to our rainmakers that brought this event together. I want to thank the Wilson Center Africa team for all their behind the scenes work. I want to thank Dr. Monde Muyoanga, for all the coordination we've had, and especially Ms. Liz Liu from the Department of State and the African Bureau. Liz has spearheaded this program over a year, and her tour of duty ends today, so we're sending her out with a bang. And I also want to thank the YALI Advisory Council members. I see a few out there. You have worked so hard in advising us and helping us make this program yours with such important voices. So thank you to the YACs. There's been tremendous work going into this program, and I know you will enjoy as we watch the maize or corn grow. It has been an honor to be with all of you, and I look forward to listening to your wonderful ideas. And now, Dr. Monde of the Wilson Center, you are an engine dedicated to bringing together thought leaders to tackle some of the continent's biggest challenges. I look forward to working again with you, and I pass you the mic. Thank you all. Merci. Obrigado.
Thank you so much, Brenda, for that fantastic start. I mean, we couldn't have asked for a better start to this program. I am energized just listening to you. I hope that all the African youth and others who are tuning in from around the continent are as energized, as excited as I am about the discussion that we're going to have today. And you just got us off to a fantastic, fantastic start. So all I want to do is add to your words of welcome to say on behalf of the Wilson Center and our partnership with the Department of State, which has been fantastic on this YALI at 10 project. We welcome all of you to this very, very important discussion. And like you, it's been fantastic working with the YALI Advisory Council. So I want to give them a double shout out as well. Add my thanks to them wherever they are across the continent. I think Brenda has already talked about why this discussion today is really important. And I just want to reinforce what she said. That for all of us, we know that youth and agriculture are at the heart of Africa's future. And Africa goes nowhere without its youth or without achieving food security. And so we're really delighted to be having this discussion here today. We know that a number of African countries have made progress in terms of transforming their agricultural sectors. But if we're to be honest, there's still a lot of work to be done. The face of agriculture in Africa is not youth. In fact, youth face so many barriers to participating in this sector. And yet we know that there's so much that you all can bring to the table. So we'll delve into these issues. How do we transform agriculture so that Africa becomes the breadbasket of the world, which it could do? Look at all the land, the resources that Africa has. Africa could certainly become that breadbasket for the rest of the world. And so let me not take too much of your time, except to say we're looking for a forward-leaning discussion with our speakers and with all of you about how we move forward in this sector. So to get us started in terms of the substance of the event today, it is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, who will address and speak to the state of Africa's agricultural sector, the challenges and opportunities, and what is needed to both transform the sector and engage African youth. Brenda has already touched on his amazing journey. And so all I want to say is that he is a farmer, he is a social entrepreneur, he's a political strategist, and he is an author who was born in a modest family of 28 children in Senegal. Thiong Yang immigrated to the United States in 2000 with only $20 in his pocket, as Brenda already pointed out. And he has worked through the hardships while getting involved in his new communities. He has participated as a community organizer for President Obama. He became the co-chair of Gen 44 for the 2012 re-election campaign for President Obama. He now leads 3 different but substantially similar international organizations: Give One Project, Jeff Zone Farms, and Acorn Lightning Africa's Solectra International. A lot to share. Just his bio in and of itself is an inspiration. But let's hear from him in terms of setting the stage and touching on those key issues that we want to talk about today. So, Mr. Nyang, over to you, my brother.
Thank you very much, Monde. Doctor, thank you for the kind introduction. I wanted to take a minute to thank the State Department, the United States government, President Obama's vision that we witnessed from the beginning about the YALI, and today it turns 10 years. It's amazing the milestone that the State Departments have been able to deliver here in Africa. I want to thank the new administration, President Biden, and the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, and the entire staff for continuing this legacy of partnership and this legacy of building not only the young leaders of Africa, giving them the tools and capacity building so they can continue to be a better partner of the United States, so we can create a more just world. And this is something huge for us, not only Africans, but us from the diaspora who came back home here to deliver the same kind of work that you're doing here in a smaller level. Thank you to the Wilson Center for the unprecedented work and the entire staff for working through the hurdles of technology to make this a reality today. I am privileged to being given the opportunity and this platform to speak to my young brothers and sisters across the continent of Africa, from Nairobi to Dakar, Senegal, where I'm at right now, to share my small experience here since I returned back home. After more than 18 years in the United States, I decided to come back home. Because there's something that struck me a few years ago. After we launched the Acorn Lighting Africa, Acorn and I came home to visit and to go through the continent to bring solar energies to many villages in the continent. One day we came to Senegal. During the lunch that we had here in Dakar in my home, something struck me. I looked at the chebujan, our rice, the real jollof rice for my Nigerian and Ghanaian friends that are claiming the jollof rice. So in the jollof rice, I've identified right away that the rice we're eating, most of it are coming all the way from Indonesia and Malaysia. The oil in the rice is coming from Ukraine, very far away from home. And most of the vegetables from Morocco and other countries around us. This was a wake-up call for me in a country that is 365 days a year. The youngest population in the world is in Africa. We have more than 200 million young Africans living here under 25 years old today. More than 60% of our population are under 25. We have the highest arable land in the world. In Senegal, for example, here where I'm at, we have flat land. You can do agriculture anywhere you go in this continent. To me, we should be feeding the world. It shouldn't be the other way around. I cannot understand and I cannot accept that Spain or France or other countries that are giving us food in Europe, 6 months out of the year, they are in the cold, where I have sun throughout the year, and they only farm 4 to 5 months, and they are feeding themselves and feeding me for the rest of the year. This is a very personal thing for me. I cannot accept that we sit in our generation, you and I, to wait for somebody else to continue to feed us. In my travels, I personally took a trip to understand more of what's happening, and I went to Bali in Indonesia. In those mountains of Bali, I wanted to see where the rice that we're eating here so much in Senegal coming from. There I met all the people from 80 years old to 90 in the mountains of Bali, farming rice, shipping it, and sending it to us to eat. In those difficulties of lack of water, in the difficulties of climate change, but also in those mountains they're climbing every day to make that a reality for us. This is the reason why I started Jeff Zone Farm. To me, the best way to respond, the best way to show frustration, to me, the best way to create change is through Jeff. Jeff in Wolof is a word name taking actions. This is why I call it Jeff Zone. It is a zone where we take actions. So when I started farming here, I bought farms with no experience whatsoever, but I wanted to respond to the daring issue of our time, which is to be able to feed our continent and create jobs through agriculture and create wealth for the continent. Of course, it was difficult. Of course, it was a lot of challenges. Of course, we've lost a lot of money. Of course, since 2014, we've came into a lot of challenges. The challenges such as being able to have electricity to come into our farms. I had to install solar to be able to farm because it's very expensive for farmers here to have access to energy. It was very difficult to be able to just cope with the regular workers, to have quality of labor in those farms. It was difficult to have access to market. Many times we farmed back in the days. We do tomatoes or potatoes and thousands of kilos of it going bad because we didn't have access to the right market. Or the prices were so low. And many farmers, millions of them around the continent are dealing with all of these kind of issues. It was difficult, it was challenging. But through those difficulties, we hanged on, we fought. We kept innovating and changing and staying on the course. Today, the farms around the Jeff Zone are doing very well. And around that, we're able now to launch the Jeff Zone Institute, the Young Leadership and Agricultural Institute, teaching young Africans, not only in Senegal, throughout the continent, are coming into our farms, to teaching them the fundamentals of agriculture. So we can create a new movement of young Africans coming back home or here in this continent to get back to the land, go back to those villages, and to have full control of what we eat. Not only having full control of what we eat, but creating decent jobs, decent quality of life for our people, especially our people in rural Africa. This is my challenge. This is something very personal that I took on, as I told you earlier, but it also should make you question the role that all of us should play in what is now the challenge of your time, of your generation. Because every generation has somewhat to take on something they will call their fight or something they will have to solve. Our founding fathers they had to deal with some very difficult issues to get us from independence. We have our founding fathers as Nkrumah, as Nyerere, as Sekou Touré, etc., and etc. They all fought to make sure that our generation, your generation, is liberated. Today, you have that opportunity. We have independence. More than 60 years, we are independent. But today, as Nelson Mandela's widow, Mama Gracia, told me, you guys' generation should be the fight for economic development in the continent. We have to create a decent quality of life for our people. And this, no one else will come to fix it for us. As much as I love the United States, and as much as they're great of a partner, it will not be their role to come and change Africa. It will be your role, you and I, to make sure we drive the change we want to see in this continent. And this comes with sacrifices. This comes with sometimes failure. This comes with not being in comfort. But we have to pave the way, like those founding fathers paved the way for us today. It is our role to create a way for the next generation to have access to everything that young people have in the US, in Singapore, in Europe. This platform we're looking at today is an example of why you and I should be questioning ourselves of where do we want our continent to be. I couldn't imagine a president in Kenya or a president in Benin or in Senegal gathering young people in Minnesota, young Americans in Washington, young Americans in California, young Americans in Indiana and Ohio, my home state, investing in them, teaching them about the future of what America should look like. I couldn't imagine any president here investing the hard-earned dollars of our country to go educate and invest in the betterment of the future of the United States. I cannot imagine China going to the United States, investing in young Americans about leadership, about farming, about healthcare, about education. I can't imagine it in young French either. It is only us today until now. We are still waiting for aid. We're waiting for opportunities. And our governments are showing us fair leadership for our partners to fill in the gap, to be able to give these amazing tools that America is giving you today so you can have what you need to be able to compete globally. Some of you were traveled from Senegal or Benin and etc., paid by the US government to go and have access to trainings, high-level trainings. But this should make you question that, is this what we want also for our children? Do we want our children tomorrow to wait for other countries to feed them? Do you want for your children tomorrow to wait for other countries to come and invest in their natural resources for them to be able to sustain themselves? Do you want for your children tomorrow to be like the kids that I see in Dakar here, more than 1,000 young children walking around the streets of Dakar with no shoes, not going to school? We call them Talibans here, but begging for what to eat a day, and everybody look away. Do you want for your children tomorrow, or your mothers, or your aunts, the future of the continent, to be in those villages in far Nairobi, in far capital of Senegal, where at night you have no access to electricity? 600 millions of Africans today have no energy. They will be in the dark if we don't do anything. In those postes de santé, those healthcares, women delivering babies dying every day because they do not see a doctor. They don't have just a light. This is what the Africa do you want. And I know you don't want that. And I know this is the reason why you are picked, that you're here. And this is why I'm frustrated. And this is why I am back home. Because I've learned long enough through the streets of Iowa, campaigning for President Obama, that if you want change, you have to stop waiting for anyone and start being the change that you want to see from the bottom up. And I know we can count on you, that this continent can count on its new generation, yourself, to deliver the change that we desperately need. I am really tired of all of the poverty that I see in this continent since I came back. I grew up through poverty. 4 days in our home, sometimes we didn't have electricity, we didn't have food. My grandfather's house where I grew up, we had no electricity growing up. So I can see and feel exactly the same thing of what my people are feeling since I came back. I grew up on that. But I don't want our children to continue to be on this. This is also why recently I decided to launch, after the Just One Farm, the Give One Project Digital Skills Academy. Can you imagine what's going on around the world in China, in the United States, in the digital world today on cybersecurity, in the digital world today on artificial intelligence, where most of the works in America today are being done by robots. Recently, when I landed in the US last month, I didn't have to give my passports. I just had to look at the camera and pass. And all of my data was with the officer. That's what they call facial recognition. Everything that's being done today in technology around the world, can you imagine how far already behind we are as Africans to catch up on the digital world? And if this revolution of digital, the new digital revolution, if we miss it, this will be something our children will never be able to catch up on. That's why the Give One Project Digital Skills Academy is training today here in Senegal young people on cybersecurity, coding, data, artificial intelligence, and etc. Not only from the farming, but we have to look at where we can bring change and move all of our energies around that to make sure that we create the Africa that we want to see, not only today, but tomorrow. Thank you. I see that you are showing me the time is up for questions. I thank you for the invitation. It's a privilege, and I'll be open for questions. God bless you all for listening, wherever you are in the continent. Thank you. Jërëjëf.
Young, thank you so much. I mean, that was such a powerful keynote, spoken from the heart, spoken very correctly, and spoken to the people that I think most need to be a part of this discussion. So I cannot thank you enough for what you've just done in terms of just laying out the issues. But I think more importantly, just also being the living embodiment of what is possible and what one person can do. Imagine if we are able to amplify that by tapping into other young Africans across the continent who are also trying to do similar things, by supporting one another and knitting all of that together. So how do we amplify this so that it takes root across the continent? I think those were some really, really powerful points, and I'll go through some of the points that you made. But I will take time for just a couple of questions. So if there are a couple of questions for Tiong, just let me know and I will pass those to them. But one of the things that came up is obviously a big gap is creating conditions at the policy strategic level in African countries to transform agriculture and to bring youth more centrally into the ambit of what we do in that agricultural sector in Africa. And so if you were to advise African governments right now in terms of creating that enabling environment, so that, as people seek to engage in this sector, they don't have to fight as hard as you did, as hard as other people are doing, to lessen some of those constraints that prevent African youth from participating in this sector and bringing their skills and talent to this sector. What would that, say if there's one thing that you think would be the most transformative things for African governments to do, what would that one thing be that you would encourage African governments to do?
Thank you very much. I don't think it can be one thing. If you let me just 2 minutes to one, I can explain. This is a very important question.
Mm-hmm.
I think that to be able to develop the agriculture sector in the continent today, we need governments to support and encourage the private sector's investment in this sector. Many of our governments think that alone they can fix the problem. And I've learned also that, actually young people are farming. There's a lot of young people in this continent. The majority of people in this country, in our countries here, they're in the farmlands. The problem is that we have older farmers because all those young people, they're leaving those farms to go to the cities looking for opportunities. But if they have those opportunities in those villages, they will not leave. Why are not they having those opportunities in those villages? Now that's the question we need to answer. Is because of what I talked about earlier. Access to market is very difficult for farmers. Government support is not there for farmers. If it's not political, it doesn't happen. I will just give you an example, like myself. Since I came back to Senegal, I've done everything that I can to get the Minister of Agriculture and his team just to say, thank you, what encouraging more than thousands of young people have been training on agriculture. They don't respond to your emails. They don't respond to your letters. They don't want nothing to do with people who are not political. As long as you're doing something on the private sector, you don't interest them, even if it's helping the country. So many of those young people, they get frustrated. The thing is, I am an eternal optimist, and I'm an optimist statue. That's why I'm still here. But I have a lot of friends who left the continent, the diaspora, came back home, and very discouraged, and some of them, they went back home, again to the US or in France. So government have to know that to change the playing field, we have to cooperate, private and public partnership. Because we have shared responsibility. And this responsibility to drive change in the sector of agriculture is the responsibility of everyone. Government alone cannot fix it. The private sector alone cannot fix it. If government doesn't do the roads, for example, even if I have all the materials that I need, I have the trucks, I have the team, it takes time to get from A to B, especially, for example, right now on rainy season. There's no roads in most of our villages. And then you do a lot of farming, and then you cannot sell it. What's going to happen in the next season, these young people say, okay, I lost a couple of millions, or I lost, even if it's like $500 and that's all I have, I'd rather go to Dakar or go to Cotonou and look for a job. And then if I get little money, I'll take the boats, try to go to Europe. Like my friends are in the US and they come back, build a home. So it is very, very, very complex. And I think the key is to have grassroots leadership in our governments and give those ministries people who understand the real struggle of farmers. I don't believe that the problems of farmers can be solved in the offices in our capitals. The problems of our farmers will be solved by the people who are in the farms, who are people who are on the ground, living daily issues and challenges, trying to find their ways in. Those are the people who can fix the problems. If you are a doctor, you want to be doing, if you want to do surgeries and you've never been to med school, that is a big problem. And most of our countries, the people who are making policies for farmers never farmed, never owned a farm, and never have an acre of anything. And these got to change. If it doesn't change, no matter what we put in, there's no way we're going to continue to be fed by other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiong. I mean, look, I couldn't agree with you more. I could go on having this discussion with you, but we have to move on to the next panel. But I hope, I found your presentation extremely inspiring, and I hope that those who are watching across the continent found it as inspiring as I did, and hopefully even more inspiring than I did, because the future of the continent is actually in their hands, as you said. So I think just a quick reminder of some of the key points that you made, the challenge that you threw out to young Africans across the continent. Understanding what you are going to do with the liberation that the founding fathers fought so hard for you. What is going to be your fight? What is going to be your contribution? How are you going to use that liberation to help develop Africa and to make sure that the next generation does not struggle or face the same struggles that you did? I think that's a really, really powerful challenge that you put out there. Another issue that you put out there, that the international community can only add value to what Africans are doing. Africans are the ones who are going to transform the continent, and young people, through their innovations, through their harnessing the frustrations that they feel, can actually bring about that transformation. So really challenging. Yes, the frustration is there with the governance, with the lack of support, but you can also harness that frustration to do good and to help transform this sector. Pushing young Africans to take ownership of the future. I like what you said about, the challenges being there, the lack of support, the unreliable electricity, the lack of quality labor, the lack of access to markets, but all of those can be worked through, especially if we change our mode of thinking. Like, how do we bring in public-private partnerships? That is a key part of how you transform that sector. And I think for me, really thinking about how we amplify the work that's happening in different parts of the continent, various African youth, just watching the chat box here, I see what's happening in various parts of the continent. How do we knit all of that together? How do we amplify that? How do we create more of these training institutes that you have created for African youth and amplify their reach and impact? I think that's going to be really important. I do like the point that you made, and I think we'll talk about it in the next panel, which is the disconnect between policymakers and what is actually happening in the agricultural sector, that we need to find ways of bridging that disconnect in order to make sure that we are listening to the people who are actually doing the work and what they need to succeed, that we're bringing this innovation into that field, that if you have policymakers who don't have a background in agriculture, who don't understand how that sector is transforming, then, Africa will forever be playing catch up. And so let's continue to have that discussion. So to all of you, please join me in thanking Tiong for a wonderful, wonderful keynote address. Really appreciate you, my brother. You have done a fantastic job, and we hope you can stay on for some of this. We also see a lot of requests from people to connect them with you. We'll be sharing your information.
I would like, before you close, to just give me a minute to talk to these young people.
No, I will. I'm coming to you. I owe you 1 minute. We discussed it.
It's very important.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
So we will share your website information and everything with the people who are asking for it. But we discussed last week, I would like you to close this session with just 1 minute words of encouragement, inspiration, or whatever message you want to send to Africa's youth.
Thank you very much. To all of you that are watching me, that are listening from Senegal to Ivory Coast to Nigeria to South, etc. I'm here today as your brother to let you know that we are in the fierce urgency of now. This is the time for you, when we leave here tonight, to please not only think about where you will start to affect change where you are, but to take actions. You got to be on the job. We depend on you. We have nobody else but you, the young people of Africa. You are hope. You are all we have right now. We can't wait for anyone to come to do it. You can't wait for the local mayor to fix it. You can't wait for the local governor to fix it. You can't wait for the president to fix it. You can't wait for the United States or China or Europe to fix it. You are the one that will fix the problems of Africa. These challenges that we have is our greatest opportunities that the entire world sees but us. China is here looking for opportunities. The US is here. Turkey is here. Europe is here. Everyone in the world understands that the future of the world is being played in our backyard but us. And if we let this opportunity of technology in agriculture pass away forever for life, we're going to be renters in our own house that we own. We live in our house, but we are paying for rent. Many of our countries that you go to, the infrastructure, if you look at, for example, here in Senegal, is being done by the French or the Chinese. The telephone companies, I don't imagine it in the United States, T-Mobile being controlled by France or anywhere else, by the French. Both of them, Free and Orange. The airport is being run by who? The Turkish. When you name it, the water that we drink is by the French. You cannot own a house and give it to somebody else to give you to eat, food to eat, and control everything for you. Last year, more than 2,000 young people, here alone in Senegal, 400 young people like you, my brothers and sisters, died on the ocean looking for opportunities to go to Europe that don't exist anymore, leaving all we have here, dying in the ocean. The Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea right now is a cemetery for our young people, the hope that we have. No one is going to change that but you. You are the lucky ones. You are the next Mandelas. You're the dreams of our founding fathers. And you will be the next presidents, the next ministers, the next business people, the next hope for the continent. You are the next Obamas of Africa, and we need you to drive the change that we need from the grassroots level. Change will always come from the bottom up. Don't wait for it come from the top down. Let us not blame anyone on Facebook. It makes no sense to be over there insulting each other on Facebook. Be on the job, on the grassroots, and create the change for the sake of your founding fathers and for the fate of our children that are waiting for us to bring the very needed change for the continent. Thank you for listening to me. And I hope that we will be able to stay in touch. We are in social media, both of the Jeff Zone and the Give One Project Digital Skills Academy on Instagram and on Facebook. But let's be on the philosophy of Jeff, because only that will be the driving change of the continent. I wish you the very best, and I hope to see you making miracles wherever you are in the continent and in the diaspora. And thank you again for the United States for being a partner in supporting our future leaders of the continent. God bless you. Jerejef from Senegal. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Wonderfully spoken, my brother. Really, really appreciate you. Apart from trying to start a war about who owns jollof rice and its origins, which I appreciated. That's always good to hear. Fantastic. And we will be in touch. So thank you. I cannot thank you enough for what you just did here. Powerful. That's the only way I can describe it. Powerful and inspirational. And with that, let me invite the panelists for the second panel, Dr. Danso, Dr. Musonge, and Mr. Hamutenya. And Tiong, thank you so much. Enjoy Senegal, and we'll be in touch shortly.
Thank you.
Could I please have Dr. Danso, Dr. Musonge, and Tanya, please turn on your videos. And to all of you who are participating, I'm loving what I'm seeing in the chat box. It is just alive. It is coming through. We're going to capture all of this. And I'm hoping that you all can continue with this energy beyond this session to really build on what you're hearing here today and what you're exchanging today. Do we have Dr. Danso? If you're on, please acknowledge that you're on, and Dr. Musonge and Ms. Samutenya.
Yeah, I'm on.
All right, fantastic. Good to see you, Dr. Danso.
Good to see you too.
Dr. Musonge, are you on?
Yes, I'm on.
Fantastic. All right. And Mr. Hamutenya?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, fantastic. We have all three out of three, fantastic. You all saw what your brother just did there. So he got us off to a fantastic keynote. And I know that you all are going to build on that. So let me just quickly introduce this next session, which the goal of today's first panel discussion is to explore YALI alumni contributions and innovations in the sector from a policy and research perspectives. So the same issues that we have been talking about, what is the state of Africa's agricultural sector? What is it going to take to transform it? How can we get youth to be more centrally involved in the sector? How do we address those barriers to entry? And so we have a fantastic panel of three speakers representing different parts of the continent. So it's really good to hear those various voices from across the continent and really bringing three different sets of expertise and knowledge and experience to these questions from three very different but reinforcing perspectives. And so what I'd like to do is just to very quickly introduce them, and I will just do some top line introductions because we're running a little bit behind. So our first speaker on this panel is going to be Dr. Benjamin Danso. He is Director of Research and Training Projects at Kumasi Institute of Tropical Agriculture in Ghana. He also teaches plant breeding and seed systems at Akenten and Pia Minka University of Skills Training and Entrepreneurial Development. He is also the founder of Adam Seeds Company Limited in Ghana, and he has served as a consultant on several projects, including GIZ's Project for Women, AGRA's Ghana Inclusive Agricultural Transformation Project, and various other projects. He is an alumnus of the YALI RLC West Africa Cohort 5 program. And so, Dr. Benjamin, let me turn it over to you for your 8 minutes to give us those top line issues that we discussed last week. So over to you, my brother.
Thank you very much, Monday. I hope you can hear me.
Sure.
All right, thank you. So picking up from Monday's introduction, she mentioned that Africa could be the world's breadbasket, and that was very powerful. Theon also emphasized that we, as youth, we can start the change that we want to see. So these are great lines that are resonating to me. However, in order to do this, we still have so many challenges that we need to fight. Young people listening to me, a lot of you I know have tried to invest into agriculture, to get into agriculture. But from a policy perspective, and even working as agriculturists, there are so many hurdles that we need to cross. So as quickly as possible, I want to highlight some of these challenges. Then we'll move on to see some recommendations that we may have for African governments as well as development partners. My brothers and sisters, climate change is real, and it's top line of the challenges that we are observing here in Africa. The last time I went to my tomato farm, what I observed was drastic flower abortions. And this is due to heat stress that has come in this era that we find ourselves. Not only that, now we have delayed planting times because of the delayed rains that we are experiencing. There are new pests and diseases that we need to battle. I'm a breeder, and we as breeders and scientists are doing our part to develop improved varieties that can withstand some of these droughts and pests and heat-tolerant varieties. However, we need to explore other mitigation strategies and other adaptation strategies. And I believe that exploring issues like irrigation, early planting, farm insurance can help us adapt to some of these climate change issues. We also live in a continent where we are quite vulnerable when it comes to our socio-economic environment. We never know when the next political tensions are going to rise in certain countries in Africa, when the next conflict is going to also rise in other part of the continent. COVID-19 exposed us in this era how vulnerable we are with our food system. So we need to, as Africans, we need to work hard on that. I also see a challenge with skilled labor. The availability of skilled labor is a major challenge in the African continent, especially when it comes to women and then the youth. You go to our farms and you realize that most of the casual jobs are being done by women and even children, and we leave the skilled ones for the men. But I believe that if we make efforts in building the skills and the capacity, we organize our educational systems properly, then I believe that we can all have that skilled labor that we want to see in our agriculture system. There's a high level of importation. So the local farmer is fighting to have his produce sold in the market. There's a lot of importation that is coming from outside Africa. And just like Dion mentioned, we need to take drastic measures to ensure that we are able to produce more in our continent. There are several challenges: gender marginalization, weak institutions that can implement agricultural policies that are set and innovations. Just like President Obama once said, Africa, we just don't need strong men, but we need strong institutions. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing. There's slow adoption of technologies. The technology will come, we keep debating. By the time we realize outside Africa, people are moving on with serious research with regards to agricultural technology. So we'll still be here debating. We also have some low levels of indigenous research. We are always late doing our research. And these are some of the things that we need to pay attention to: credit facilities, infrastructure, insurance in this era of climate change. Insurance packages for farmers is something that we need to pay attention to. Despite these challenges, I still believe that there are still some opportunities and strengths that as a continent, we have some frameworks that shows that our African governments have shown some level of commitment that they want to involve themselves in changing the narrative. We can talk about the intra-Africa trade. Now there's that African Continental Free Trade Area agreement. So now you are not scared of probably taking your products to another country within the African continent. So these are opportunities for us that young people we can explore. Now they are modernized and conducive and accessible food markets. With our social media, we can do our marketing very easily. I know some young people are already exploring that. Now, even getting paid is not as challenging. You don't have to always walk to the bank. Across all African continents, there's this relationship between the telcos and then the banks where you can easily do some mobile money transfers. And these are all good environments for us to work within. So let's take those opportunities. Now, there are also improved quality assurance mechanisms within our food systems in Africa. Most countries in Africa now have quality standards. They have biosafety standards. They have health standards that everybody working within this food value chain will have to abide with. There are also improved commitments by these African countries by signing on to various frameworks that has been established in the through AU talk of the cadet. All these things are opportunities that have been given to us that we can work freely in this agricultural sector. There's space for private engagement. There's space for public-private partnership. And for me in Ghana, I've seen a lot of collaboration between the government and then the private sector. And usually when youth also avail themselves, most governments give that quota to youth to also explore. There are enormous support from development partners. Just like YALI has done for us, there are lots of support that comes in to help young people to be the best that they can, especially when it comes to agribusiness. I'm saying agribusiness because agriculture, agribusiness is not limited to only the farming component, but it goes beyond the farming. It is an input, the production, and then the market sector. So from production, there's still a value chain that's are all part of this agribusiness that we are talking about, and youth can take these opportunities. If I'm asked to give some policy recommendations to African governments, I would say that let's invest in building the competencies of the youth and then the women. We need to develop more skilled labor. And just like Yon said, African governments will have to make conscious efforts to use this competence-based approach of teaching, which is more practical than just the normal traditional way that the graduates we are churning out don't meet the needs of the industry. So we need to take those practice steps in ensuring that this happens. I believe that in policy formulation too, let's do this bottom-up approach instead of the top-down approach. Let's start the conversation from the small-scale farmers. Let's involve women in the decision-making. Let's involve the youth in decision-making. So we will be able to take everybody's interest at heart. Last but not the least, if I'm to give a recommendation to development partners like the United States, just like I said for the African states, let's pay attention to skills development. So much money has been pumped into the agri sector of Africa, but we are not seeing the impact because we don't have the people to run with the new ideas that are coming up. If it's ICT, let's build a skill within the youth so that we can run. And I believe that any change, any transformation that we make within the youth will be long-lasting. So let's look at that option as well. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Benjamin, thank you so much, my brother. Absolutely fantastic. Nothing for me, just even being here, just this opportunity to be with this array of young Africans across the continent who are doing so much, and hearing you speak in your own voices about what you're doing, that in and of itself is just such a huge contribution to how we think about Africa, but also, what's possible on the continent, just highlighting these powerful resources, engaged young leaders across the continent who are doing so much. So fantastic, my brother. And you touched on all of the issues that we needed you to touch on this panel in terms of the policy and research perspective of this agricultural and agribusiness transformation. And I could see that some of our participants were excited that you started out with the climate change issue. We cannot ignore that issue on the African continent or anywhere else for that matter. But Africans suffer greatly from the impacts of climate change, and just really looking at how we might address that. So fantastic. Let me now introduce our next speaker, my sister, Dr. Peace Musange. She is a scientist and entrepreneur. She holds a PhD in biosciences engineering from Ghent University in Belgium. She is a Mandela Washington alumnus at USC Berkeley, Goldman School for Public Policy and Civic Engagement. So she has collaborated on a lot of international research projects in Africa, Asia, Europe, and South and North America. And she is also a mentor for African youth in the STEM area. So that's science, technology, engineering, and math. She has focused on offering data-driven, sustainable green solutions in the water, food, technology nexus, and integrating that into climate change adaptation. So Peace, we talked to you, we gave you a number of questions for you to address. So let me now turn it over to you to talk about your questions and add value to this discussion. Over to you, Peace. You're still muted, Peace.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I'll go through the questions and not repeat some of the things that have already been discussed by Niang and Dr. Danso. I'll go through opportunities, strengths, and challenges that the resilient systems in Africa would face. I'll start with the strengths that we have in Africa in the agriculture and aquaculture sector. Because most times when we speak about agriculture, we forget also about the aquaculture sector, which includes the fisheries, shrimp farming, seaweed farming. So the strength that I see is we still have traditional and organic methods of farming. And as you can see, the current trend is people are looking for nutrient-dense foods. It's not about the quantity, but it's about the quality. So we have that opportunity to see how we can grow sustainable food systems with nature, but not against nature, that has been done in other continents. So I look at that as a strength. And then the second strength I see is Africa is a very diverse continent. We have a diverse ecosystem. We have the mountains, we have the lakes, the rivers, the deserts. So different types of crops can grow in all those systems. And then looking at the cultures in Africa, we have very different dietary systems, which creates markets. We have the wheat-based system. We have the cultures that are eat tubers and eat grains, and those that eat bananas, those that eat maize, the cereal-based system, sorghum. So those are all strengths of our aquaculture and agriculture system. And that would bring me to the opportunities that we see. I'll start with the COVID-19 pandemic. I look at this as an opportunity, especially as a scientist. We can look at the vaccine scenario that happened in Africa, where vaccines were not being delivered when African countries wanted. And then we could see our government saying they want to invest in their scientists to develop their own vaccines. For example, my country, Uganda. So I see that as scientists, we can also glean from this, from the other medical scientists, and see how we can transfer this to the food systems, because also health and foods and food security go hand in hand. And then when I look at another opportunity is that Africa has a free trade, as I'd already said, the free trade market. And in 20 years, we're going to have the largest market in the world. So when Niang talked about other countries coming in and seeing what we're not seeing, this is an opportunity for us to also wake up and work towards Vision 2063 and the SDGs, while putting that in mind, that in 20 years, the next billionaires will be coming from Africa. So that's something we should also look at. And then another opportunity is that there are a lot of policies like the Malabo Declaration. The African Union has put agriculture as one of the pillars for development. We see the Green Initiative. All these things show that government and our actors and allies are willing to work together to create sustainable systems. So as youth, we can tap into those opportunities, but that would also take a bit of reading and research and interest to find all the information and see how you can participate in that. When it comes to the challenges, as a scientist, the main challenge is that agricultural research is the alpha of the whole agricultural food chain. So this, when people look at agricultural research, even the smallholder farmer determines when will I plant. That is science, looking at weather science. What kind of seeds will I plant? What kind of seeds will I breed together to get new varieties? All that is science. So you can see that we need to put emphasis on agriculture research and data collection. Africa is one of the continents that has a lot of data, but it's not collected. And that gives us issues when we are trying to make policies that do not work. And that's one of the issues when you look, for example, at the climate data. Most of the data that's put in the models is from other countries and other continents. And then these are projected onto the African continent. Then people say, oh, they told us that it's going to be like a long drought, but now it's raining. And that is because we do not have data centers, data collection centers to also add into these models, and then we get accurate predictions for our farmers. And then lastly, I'll look at the issue of governance. We look at land transparency. We also look at we also look at political instability. In order to have a sustainable and a resilient food system, we have to work in unity. When we look at our brothers in Somalia, Mozambique, South Sudan, Tigray in Ethiopia, there are very many pockets of instability, and also that can affect all these systems to be resilient. And then when it comes to all those challenges, opportunities, the solutions I would have is that one of the things that I saw Niang also state he does in Senegal is to have a Silicon Valley of food tech, which has representatives from the whole food value chain. We have the farmers, we have the coders, we have the research scientists, we have the business people. So we have the whole food, and we have this in different areas of the continent. That would also be a very vital solution. And as Africans, we have the spirit of Ubuntu. So with the spirit of this collective nature of working together, I think we can create like cooperative societies that we see in Uganda, Tanzania. Other countries can mirror on this and give farmers a strong voice. And in those cooperative societies, it's not only farmers, but we have all the players in the food value chain, the scientists who will give the farmer information on when to plant, explain to them climate change, explain to them environmental degradation, how to agroforestry, agroecology. That would be a very interesting thing to do. And then another solution is to have hybrid systems. I don't think we need to cancel our traditional systems, but we need to combine both systems, a hybrid system of the modernized agriculture and then the traditional system, to see how we can develop a sustainable food system. And then when it comes to the challenges as young people that they face in joining agribusiness, I'll look at it from a female perspective. The gender mindset and bias that most of our cultures have is that land ownership, land rights, young people and women especially do not get that land transfer. So the land rights, and yet women make up the highest majority of farmers, and they really work a lot in the agricultural value chain. So that's one. And then, as the earlier is stated, is the skill set. We need really skilled. Agribusiness doesn't mean you're just going to eat, but you need to have the skill. You need to have the know-how. So that's one of the things that that is a challenge for youth who just say, "Let me become a farmer. Let me start digging." But you need to know the know-how. You need to know the foundation. And I'll just conclude with the two recommendations for policy makers and government, is that we need to embed STEM and entrepreneurship in the different levels of education, with an emphasis on women and youth. As you can see, only 22% of agriculture scientists in the continent are women, and this number needs to increase. And then there's also an age divide. Most of the scientists are of an older age, and then there needs to be a transfer of knowledge from the old scientists to the young scientists, because if we don't fill that gap, we will not have a sustainable solution. And then the next and the last recommendation I would give is the governments need to give tax credits to the private sector, because private sector really plays a big role in funding research. And okay, this is what I've seen in like other universities, like in the different continents. you'll find that there's a research center for Nestle, there's a research center for, so this is something that governments need to work hand in hand with the private sector. We can have those small research centers at institutions, and they give these research, these private companies tax credits. And then also with an example of like Uganda, we've had scientists who have taken their research and commercialized it. So that's something that the government needs to give scientists, government scientists, a certain percentage of their grants should go into commercialization work, not just making publications, attending conferences, but something that is tangible that the whole country can benefit from because they're using taxpayers' money. I think I'll just end with that because most of the things were stated. Thank you.
All right, peace. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I really love that all of you are forward-leaning in terms of not just sitting here talking about the challenges, but really coming up with some practical things that can be done. I love your idea of a Silicon Valley food systems sort of arrangement on the tech side. I mean, that would be absolutely fantastic. And I can just imagine how much of an impact that would have. I really liked your point also, which has come up previously about investing more in R&D on this agricultural side of the house. And unfortunately, I hope my information is not outdated. I think African governments are asked to make a very small percentage investment into the Malabo agreement, and very few of African governments have made even that small percentage investment. And so you really cannot transform that sector unless there is that commitment to invest in it and really bring that sector to life. But I also think that one of the points that you made was really about how do we bring these frameworks that Dr. Danso talked about and the ones that you talked about, how do we bring them to life? Like those frameworks are in place. What we really need to do is how do we inject life into the Malabo framework? How do we inject more life into CADEP? All of those issues. So I thought that was really, really important. I do like your point also about ensuring that, we're not neglecting traditional knowledge. I think sometimes there has been this sense that it's good only if it's modern, but there's so much richness and so much value in the traditional knowledge around farming. So how do you marry those two things together? And then finally, before I turn it to our third speaker, I think what was really interesting was your point on how you flipped COVID on its head. As much as it has really hit the continent hard, but seeing some of the opportunities that we can tap into to learn from and energize this sector. So thank you so much for that piece. And I know I'm not doing justice to either what you or Benjamin said, but I think just very, very powerful. Your words speak for themselves. And so let me now turn to our third and final speaker on this panel, Mr. Jacob Hamutenya. He is a YALI RLC South African Mandela Washington Fellowship alumni from 2017 in the public management track. And he was at UNISA, BLS, and Texas Tech University, respectively. He currently manages the National Fresh Produce Business Hub of the Agro Marketing and Trade Agency, a state-owned agency in Namibia. His job strives to enhance market access for small-scale horticultural producers in the country, providing cold storage and marketing facilities and promoting value addition with an overall objective of import substitution through stimulation of local production. So we asked Jacob to touch on some of these value chain and supply chain issues that have come up so far, to talk about some of the barriers to entry and what institutions such as his are doing in that sector and how we can perhaps learn from that, to identify some of the strengths in that sector as well. And so, Jacob, let me turn it over to you. And I know you will offer us some recommendations as well. So we're looking forward to those. Absolutely critical that we not just talk about the challenges, but also, how we can move forward. So, Jacob, over to you, my brother. Can you turn on your microphone?
Yep. I hope you can hear me now. Yes, thanks to you all, to the previous speaker and to the moderator. Well, in this part of Southern Africa, we have seen a spike and an increase in the interest of the youth in when it comes to horticulture and poultry production. The youth for the past 3-4 years that have been in this space, they have taken up an interest in this area at a small scale level. We have seen great examples coming out from countries like Zambia and Zimbabwe, where the Z farmers and some farmers in South Africa who are doing really wonderful stuff as youth. And this has come out of a realization that there is a need to produce food, not just for feeding ourselves, but as an income generation means, and also as a way to better and improve the quality of life for the youth in this part of Africa. Namibia is one of them. However, despite this surge in the interest in the sector, the youth have been faced with myriads of challenges in their pursuit to create sustainable enterprises out of whatever sector they chose to, or enterprise they chose to. One such has been access to market. I will talk about access to market because as one of the key challenges that the youth are facing, because that is the space that I have been predominantly on for the past 7 years. Now, what has been happening is that youth, due to a combination of factors, we have these wonderful small-scale producers who are producing these beautiful and, in their eyes, good quality products in massive quantities, but at the end of the day, their produce end up rotting or being sold somewhere in the side of the road where they don't get the value that they otherwise supposed to derive out of these products. So, and this is due to lack of markets, and of course, due to lack of skills, marketing skills, and business documents. Most of them, they lack business documents that enables them to negotiate and finish deals with potential buyers. What also happens in that is that we found that some of them are also unable to comply to regulatory and all these other documents that are required for you to make your products listed with certain producers, or with certain retailers or any other market. But on top of that, yes, the capital and access to land remains one of the biggest challenge all in all. And amongst these aspiring agripreneurs. However, we have seen that there's a need to embrace all these challenges in order to face and take and exploit the opportunities that are available in order to make our agricultural system in horticulture and poultry and any other trade that we pick, in order to make them sustainable and resilient to climate and any other shocks that may affect our production systems. One such is, like Tiong has alluded to earlier on, is embracing digitalization of agriculture, which involves us embracing automation of our production systems in order to, and also, like I said, embracing social media to market our produce. But it also calls for us to, especially in the face of now in the newly open signed intercontinental free trade, to embrace things like cryptocurrency, blockchains, and all these forms of money transfer system that enables, without the bureaucratic involvements of our traditional banks and all that, in order to transfer money between countries, and products can also move from one country to other with less hassle. So that's another opportunity. And this also involves us, again, there's an opportunity for agriculture to embrace the mobile phone enabled services to manage our finances, to evaluate, to check for input availabilities, production, to check, to learn about the production system, different production system, to check and the research on prices and all those kind of things. But the biggest opportunity, if you ask me, is the intra-Africa, intercontinental free trade, which the youth, especially those that are struggling with market access, it enables them to trade the surplus products that they have to countries that have deficit in that space. My colleagues there has alluded to the fact that Africa is so diverse. You find that some countries are good, their terrain allows them to produce spices, and some countries like Namibia, which is a significant, largely a desert, has a weakness in that in production of fruit trees, of citrus. So you find that South Africa and other countries makes it easy to trade and supply us with citrus, and then as we can trade, we can supply them with things like meat, beef, or so. So this is another opportunity brought about by some of that arrangement. But you see now, in order for our governments to allow the youth and any aspiring person to explore this opportunity, we need our government and with the support of private sectors, as my colleagues have advised, that we need to ensure stable and safe environment, marketing and business environments. It's a responsibility of governments and its stakeholders to ensure peace and stability in order for the youth to be able to exploit and play, and for all these forces to come to play. What also needs to be in place is infrastructure. If we are to embrace mobile digitalization and all these mobile-enabled services and intra-Africa trades and all that, the government needs to ensure that infrastructures are in place. Then the road networks, communication networks, water. Very, very important. Water is very critical to agriculture, especially in electricity, power, be it renewable or on grid. It needs to be in place to enable all those other mechanisms to work. Fourth industrial revolution cannot be realized if we do not have some of this in place. What you also need to government and partners need to embrace is come up with the very good early warning systems that enables these chain players to prepare and also put mechanisms in place in order to be able to handle and deal with some of these outbreaks and anything that comes with that. That also goes with enabling youth, especially youth, to have access to soft skills development, like Dr. has alluded to, and also to come up with favorable regimes that allows youth to own pieces of land, despite their predicament, them not having built up enough substantial collaterals or any assets that can be put forth for them to get credit facility, because agriculture is very capital intensive, inputs are very expensive, this part of the continent. So governments needs to invest in and come up with those youth-friendly regimes. What is also very, very important is governments needs to create enabling environment so that production inputs are very affordable and very accessible. Because agriculture is only as strong, the value chain, whatever that is, only as strong as any of the actors, and input producers and input suppliers are one of them. And it has been one of the biggest challenges, I think, in the whole continent. The production inputs are very high. So, but it goes to say that if we are to provide advice on some of the policies and all that, really, I'm not a fan of subsidies, but government, like my colleague have alluded to, need to provide tax rebates and working capital to ease up some of these financial burdens, especially for those credit burdened producers now, especially in the wake of COVID. The youth needs to be given some, but so that they can restart their system and be able to continue. And what also needs to, one of the biggest also policy advice that we're even pushing for in my country here in Namibia is for government to come up with agreements with a offtake regime, guaranteed offtake regimes for smallholder farmers' produce to feed into in public institutions. We have our schools, we have our military bases and all that, and they need food. So what you're saying is government must provide at least the bare minimum market and allocate that to youth and any other upcoming producers in order for them to have at least a minimum guaranteed market, so that they are able to produce with confidence and be able to produce in what we call market-led. They pick up they get the production based on what the demands of these institutions are. At least like that, we'll be able to stimulate local production and enable the farmers to be able to produce for other distribution system. But really, governments also needs to, like my colleagues have said, the government also needs to provide subsidies of whatever nature to certain distribution chains which are higher cost. They are higher cost associated with certain points in the value chain, such as distribution to certain points. So government really needs to come in and just incentivize some of those. And it also goes with like my colleague has said, needs to create data rooms to track and forecast availability and the pricing and accessibility of commodities. This is now agricultural commodities. It's not just what we currently see is just the prices and all that, but it must be deep and it must be long-term, so that it makes it easy for entrepreneurs out there to see where are the opportunities in the chain. All in all, I think as agriculturalists and aspiring agripreneurs, as a final statement, I would like to say, look, data is showing us that agriculture will soon become, by 2030, it will become a $1 trillion industry. And as we have heard, that you see about 80% of the output of agriculture is going to come. It has been coming from smallholders. So there's definitely an opportunity for all of us, the current practitioner, agriculturalists, and the aspiring agripreneurs, to tap into this industry, to feed the growing population, create decent jobs, and improve quality of our lives, our own lives, and for the people, those around us. However, for this to happen, the chain actors, the various chain actors from input suppliers up to the consumer, we need to understand the consumer needs, and as actors, we need to ensure that these consumer needs, we ensure the information flow along the chain, and we need to ensure that our chains, our relationship as various chain players are mutual, our relationships are mutual and not adversarial. And we need to ensure that we also share the value, the dollar value that we get as chain players at a different point. We share it equitably amongst our colleagues. And all in all, please, to reduce wastage. To minimize our wastage and increase efficiency along the chain in order to reduce our post-harvest losses. We understand billions and billions of tons are going to waste every year as a result of inefficient chains. And lastly, our chains and our business linkage in this agribusiness, we need to make sure they are inclusive as much as possible, be it gender-wise, be it disabilities and different social differences, in order for us to be as inclusive as possible. On that note, colleagues, I would like to end it there, and we can take it from there at a later stage with questions.
Fantastic, Jacob. Really, really appreciate that. Let me start on your last point. Again, just another wonderful, wonderful presentation. You're talking about the fact that agricultural value and supply chains in many African countries are broken or disconnected. And so paying attention to how we better connect those value and supply chains. You are talking about, as the other speakers have talked about, that Africa will be left behind unless we figure out how we digitalize the agricultural sector as well, because that's going to amplify what we're trying to do. Again, you reinforced an earlier point made by previous speakers about the importance of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, both in terms of what it can do for the African continent, when it comes alive, but also bringing youth more centrally into the provisions of that agreement. So I thought that was a really good point. And then you talked about the infrastructure. The need for infrastructure. There's been a lot written over the last 10 years about infrastructural development in Africa. Yes, we see it, but how does that infrastructure development look like on the agriculture and agribusiness across the chain side of the house? Is that infrastructure, I'm not talking stadiums, I'm not talking, shopping malls, I'm not talking all of that. I think what you're asking for is a very deliberate effort to look at that development supportive infrastructure, what that looks like in the agricultural sector across the value and supply chain, that it has to be a very, very deliberate effort. One of the things that I hear from all three of you is the land management question on the African continent. And I know some countries are doing better than others, that there is a disconnect between those who actually do the work on the land and those and who owns the land, and that a more deliberative effort ought to be put into ensuring that there is that connection, the people who actually can contribute in this agricultural sector are able to access land, that they're not forgotten as we look at this big picture on the land question. And then I think another point that you made really, and all the speakers from our keynote speaker to all three of you, you have raised this, the governance question. That you can't do all of this without having a governance model that really speaks to the need of the people on the ground. And in this particular case, the needs of, the farmers. So going from the bottom up, I think is what Benjamin called it. Like, how do we build policy that speaks to the needs starting at the bottom rather than this top-down approach? So thank you very much. We don't have a lot of questions, but I will ask one question of all of you that keeps coming up. And it is the question of how best we empower women and youth on the African continent in a really practical way. There are a lot of verbal commitments that have been made to youth and women's empowerment on the African continent. Again, some countries are doing better than others. But if I were to turn to you and say, from a policy perspective, what could be done what needs to be done to bring that empowerment to life? Yet, yes, the verbal commitments have been made, but what can we do to ensure that it is being brought to life? And I'll give you each a minute to talk to that question. But there's also another question that has come up talking about, how we can better link small-scale farmers to the markets. And I think this question comes from, let's acknowledge where Africa is today. We see a vision of where it needs to be in terms of agricultural transformation. But the truth of the matter is that we have a lot of small-scale farmers across the African continent. And so how can we better give them that access to markets? And then the third question that has come up, and I'll ask you to pick one of the questions and respond to it in a minute, has to do with that financial institutions are basically pricing out young Africans because they do not have the collateral that you would need to sort of get the resources that you need to enter this sector. So do you have any advice of how we can make this sector more accessible in terms of, the initial resources that are needed to get youth started? So I will start in the order in which you presented and just give you the opportunity to pick one question, respond to it in a minute. And then when all three of you have finished, I will come around to that word of inspiration. So Benjamin, starting with you first, pick one question that you want to answer in a minute or so, and then I'll move it over to Peace, and then we'll conclude with Jake.
All right, thank you very much. I want to touch on the question on the women. There are a lot of verbal commitments, not only women, and in fact, all the gender groups. I want to emphasize that the women are, quote unquote, useless if they are not empowered with the skill that they need. There are situations where I've been looking for even women to occupy certain positions. Unfortunately, you reach out to the women who are in our domain and they don't have the capacity, they don't have the skill. So I believe that we should all play a role in ensuring that we give opportunity to our female counterparts to build their competencies so that when the opportunities present themselves, they can equally compete and take various positions in the agribusiness space. Also, in the gender transformative change approach, I believe that if we go by the feminist system of trying to go in a feminist way, it won't help. Let's involve the other family members. Let's make it a collective action. Let's see it as empowering the women who the collective good to the entire family so that everybody will play a role, not only the women, even the youth, the children within the family. Let's all agree that for the collective interest of the family, we are all going this way. Listen to the views of all the partners within the family, including the wife, the children. If we start from that angle, I believe that it will translate to the policy level and all other levels that we find ourselves and the gender roles in there. So I will let the other speakers handle the other questions. Thank you very much.
I love that, Dr. Danso. I really love that. You're making a very important point, that how we frame women's empowerment matters, that it needs to resonate in terms of where African cultures are, that if you frame it as empowering women to the disadvantage of other members of society, to the disadvantage of African, other members of the family, or framing it in very individualistic terms, that it likely will not succeed. And so thinking very clearly and being very deliberate about why you are talking about women's empowerment, what it means in that African context, and therefore what needs to be done to make sure that the society benefits from the women's empowerment and inclusion of women is critically important. I would also just say that, women make up 51% of Africa's population, so slightly more than the males. And the reason I raise that is when you are trying to do something, you want all members of your team present and participating and contributing. And so the message that I have there personally is always that you cannot win a football match if half of your members are not allowed to participate. You're absolutely going to lose that. So in the same way, Africa will not be able to achieve its developmental potential unless all members, all demographics of the Africans' population included in whatever the endeavor is. But I do thank you for that very, very powerful point about how we frame this issue in order to have the most impact. So thank you very much, Dr. Danso. Peace, I don't know which question you would like to take.
I'll take on the second question of how to better link smallholder farmers to markets. I think these people in the agriculture fraternity can say this is, we need to eliminate the middleman. That's the biggest barrier to smallholder farmers. And as we see that most of the farmers have small blocks of land, there's a lot of fragmented farming. Having these farmers grow together with using block farming techniques. So you find that you have out of 20 farmers, 10 participate in the farming, and then others can be trained on how to do entrepreneurship, look for markets, post-harvest technologies. I think that's a way to better empowering the smallholder farmers by eliminating the middleman, because the middlemen are the ones who block information to most of these smallholder farmers. They go around collecting the produce from the different farmers, and then they take it to the market. So having the farmers get a collective voice through cooperative unions, creating for them farmer circles, so working as a block, as I had earlier stated, that Ubuntu spirit, bringing the Ubuntu spirit into the smallholder fragmented farming. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Fantastic. I hear you. I spent some time in rural Zambia as well. So I understand when you're talking about the middlemen in these processes and how that disrupts the process and sort of takes away from what the small scale farmers are actually able to earn and actually do in this space. So I hear you thinking or advising to very, very clearly come up with policies that enable African countries to do away with this middleman. So there's that direct connection. So thank you so much for that point. I think it's a really, really important point. Jacob, over to you. You're left with a question, my brother. I don't know if that's what you wanted, but that's the one you're going to get.
Yeah, definitely. I'll take the last one. And I would like to bring in a different perspective to what my colleague has said. Look, there is no need to do away with middlemen. What our farmers need what our interventions as government, as partners in this needs to do in order to enhance small-scale farmers' access to market is we need to build capacities in our smallholder farmers. By virtue of them being smallholder, they are SMEs. They are smallholders. They also small in lots of skills. So we need them to understand the concept of comprehensive value chain, where you understand and appreciate the role of each and every player in the chain. Every player has a role, and that role is very strategic to the functioning of the chain, whether downstream or upstream. Middlemen in the form of aggregators, for example, they are there to ensure that as we have these multiple small-scale farmers, they have small volumes. These volumes need to be aggregated at some point so that they form up a big consignment, which can then be taken to a market, a whole sum, to reduce transactional costs associated with what we are currently observing in our countries. A farmer with 2 crates of tomatoes traveling 130 kilometers to take to the market. So we need, in order to enhance their access to the market, we need to build capacities in our small farmers so that they understand, first of all, they need to understand the consumer, what the eventual consumer needs, what are those attributes that they look for in whatever products that these farmers want to farm with. Once you understand what the consumer needs, then you produce and you manage your system in such a way that you are upholding the attributes and you are enhancing the attribute that the consumer that is going to spend $1 on your product is satisfied with. And as chain players now, individual chain players from input suppliers to transporters to aggregators to policymakers and so forth, we ensure that these attributes are upheld until the products reach the consumer. And then the consumer will be very proud to spend their dollar in these particular commodities, and you have more consumer paid commodity. And at the end of the day, the pie of every player in this chain increases. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jacob. I don't think there is disagreement. What you are describing is what I would say, maybe for lack of a better term, a middleman of the future. The middleman that has existed in many of these, in the African context, particularly when I was growing up, maybe I'm dating myself here, was a middleman who took but was not adding value to the process. And I think this is the reaction that Peace and others are talking about. There is no need for that middleman who is taking a cut of what should be going to the small-scale farmers and not adding anything at all to the process. That's what we're talking about. That has been the definition of the middleman who has existed in this space in the past. What you are talking about is the value chain and the different players along the way in that value chain that we should be looking at to make the process more efficient. I'm all for that. And I think everybody in this forum would agree with you. So I just wanted to put that on for the record, that I don't think there's a point of disagreement. You are looking into the future to say this is what we need along the value chain and the supply chain to make things more efficient. And I think the question that Peace was addressing is what the traditional middleman has looked like in the past. And that still exists today in some places. So I do like that we had the opportunity to look at both the present in terms of what that middleman picture looks like, and the future in terms of the role, the positive role that middlemen could play. So thank you so much for that. There's an interesting question that has come, and I know we have time for a little more time. This is from one of our YALI Advisory Council members, who is always chastising us for not looking enough at the role that the arts and the creative sector could play in terms of transforming the agricultural sector in Africa, that they have a lot of value added to this process, including telling the story, reframing and promoting and all of that good stuff. But do any of you have any thoughts about how you can bring in the creatives? We have so many creative people on the African continent, the arts, who are doing really good work to contribute to Africa's development, who are doing really good work to minimize instability. We were doing really good things to talk about, for instance, domestic violence and, how to counter that, who are doing really good things in terms of, the girl child and her position in society, just using their voice and creative for Africa's development, for Africa's political stability. So do you have any thoughts about how the arts and creative sector could maybe play a role in helping to transform Africa's agricultural sector and address some of these challenges that we've talked about? So any one of you can take that question, whoever wants to go first. Otherwise, I'm going to point at someone. Okay, you want to?
I just thought I'm of the belief the arts and creative sector has a very big role to play in agriculture, especially the youth. If you are on social media like me, you find how creative these jokes and memes and all these jokes cartoons that we see every day. And they are all done by creative youth. Now, what it tells you is that, look, the youth can use their that ability to create, to make agricultural products very attractive in order to alter the perception that agriculture is for the poor, it's a dirty job, it's all that. We can use the arts and the creative industry. We can embrace them, to use them to make agriculture look cool and appealing to the youth and to all the other people who hold a different perception. So there is that room for them. There is that room for them, and there's also a room for creative and for them to make agricultural products more marketable. You see, market is more about perception. So they can create this transformation. They can find ways how to transform our normal cassava into some other fancy ways and creative ways that we have never thought about to make cassava more appealing to even to those other clients in the other parts of the world where they have never heard or never seen cassava before. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Okay, this is really interesting. And Peace and Benjamin, I'll come to you later, but maybe you can share your thoughts on that in writing so we can share with everybody when we send out our little message, because we're running out of time and the discussion is becoming even more interesting. And I also think that in terms of the creatives and the arts, you're absolutely right that how we depict what the face of agriculture looks like can help transform this sector. I cannot tell you, and I think this has been pointed out by others before, including Dr. Kaunda in Zambia, who's a young Zambian farmer who was actually trained as a medical doctor, but she's now in the farming sector. She has pointed out, and I agree with her, that too often when you pick up a magazine, you pick up this and that, the face of African agriculture is the rural African woman with a hoe, right? And we want to acknowledge their contributions, but that image is not going to help transform the sector or acknowledge how the sector is transforming. So I think there are a lot of ways that this can be done, but it's absolutely critically important. And I thank the person who sent in that question, that we need to think very clearly about how we bring all of these resources to the table to help transform this sector that is so critical to Africa's future. Let me conclude this with just giving you each 1 minute to conclude with a word of inspiration to young Africans who are listening out there. So Jacob, I'll start with you, and literally just 1 minute, and then I'll come to you, Benjamin, and we will have our African sister have the last word on this panel. So Jacob, 1 minute or less, what's your word of inspiration or encouragement?
Well, to all my brothers and sisters from all the corners of this beautiful continent and in the diaspora, colleagues, I'm a youth too, so I'm speaking with my colleagues. Let's invest our energy and time in what matters. We clearly hear that agriculture is the next big thing, and that has to start now. Our preparation, if you want to tap into this biggest thing, it must start now. So let's invest all our energy, our time, and everything in what matters. If agriculture is what matters to us, like I see, let's invest in that. And let's desist from the culture of breaking each other down and not supportive and all these things that we see, and use all our good skills available and all these talents to enhance and what we want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Dr. Benjamin.
All right, thank you very much. To my colleagues, I'll simply say that we've mentioned a lot of challenges, but let's take these challenges as opportunities, which we can ride on to create innovative enterprises for ourselves. The reason why that I am doing a lot of things is because I find lots of challenges, and every opportunity I get, I want to ride on that to create a business out of it. So I'll advise that when we find a challenge, let's build our skill in that side of that problem so that we can solve it ourselves and turn it into a business, including the multimedia skills that we just spoke about. We cannot be bloggers to, push the agenda of agribusiness. So not only that, the market linkages challenges, the climate change challenges, we can use IT to fix most of these problems. So just like YALI has taught us, let's change ourselves, let's change our mindset and stop depending on government. Let's do what we can. And together, I think we can change the narrative for Africa. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, fantastic, Benjamin. Peace, bring us home, my sister. What do you have to share with us?
What I'll have to say is that we've given all these recommendations and the issues and challenges and opportunities. But what I would like the youth in Africa is we need to skill ourselves. If you have the opportunity to get a skill, improve yourself, and not spend maybe your time or your data on non-issues, but focus on skilling yourself in IT, maybe in blogging or communicating with mentors, reading a book. Or it's not only about IT, even just sitting and reading a book, because we've been talking about technology. But when you have load shedding, you want technology. You can go out and book in the sun. So I would say that let's use our youth, our energy to skill ourselves. And with those skills, that's how we shall move and may have solutions for all these things that we've spoken about here than just talking about it. So that's what I would say. And then maybe if you have a piece of land or somewhere, just plant a mango seed, because the mango trees last long, and that's how you contribute to the health, food security, and also climate change. Just plant a mango seed wherever you can, because they grow without any help and last for long. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Benjamin, Peace, Jacob, I cannot thank you enough for what has been a terrific panel, just adding on to what our keynote speaker said. We are out of time, and all I want to say at this point is to ask our audience to please join me in thanking our three panelists for a fantastic job. You guys were just absolutely terrific. I cannot thank you enough. The only other thing I would say at this point is I listened to all of the speakers this morning. I am watching all the comments that are coming in the chat box from various participants across the beautiful African continent. And all I can say is don't ever let anyone give you the sense that there is no talent on the African continent. Don't ever let anyone tell you that Africans need to stand by for others to come and do for them. I am watching the energy. I am watching the contributions. I am watching the solutions. I am watching the desire to overcome the challenges. I am watching all of the positive stuff that you are bringing to the table in terms of the opportunities that exist, even within a very trying environment of COVID, a trying environment of some of the governance challenges that are facing the continent. And yet you are here sharing your knowledge, exchanging your knowledge, talking about how you move the continent forward. Let that be the spirit that drives all of you, drives you forward. You are Africa's future. Africa belongs to you. So keep it up. Let's keep going. And with that, let me just invite you again to thank Benjamin, Peace, and Jacob. We're now going to have a short 10-minute video. You can take a break, but it will highlight some of the good work that YALI members are doing in this space. And then please come back. And if you step away for the break, although I would encourage you to watch the video, it is fantastic. We will start the next panel in about 10 minutes. So thank you, and over to the video.
I am Hope Musa Hope Mapeto. The name of my project is My Tomorrow Academy. I run a youth-led farm, and I also produce biodiesel using used vegetable oil. Youth unemployment is everywhere, and there's food security. The love for my community, the love for the people drew me closer to the projects that I'm running now. Especially in a rural community, there's no exposure actually to great things that are happening in the world. There's lack of information, lack of mentors or role models. So when you come in a community and say like, hi, I have this thing, let's do this, they're very hesitant. So I'm gonna prove a point, I'm gonna change lives, I'm gonna inspire people, I'm gonna make a difference in my community. The little corner in my world, I'll be making a difference. So it's me and the love towards people.
Climate change has really affected smallholder farmers. For fresh produce such as fruits and vegetables, around 45% of it goes to waste, especially in Kenya and in most developing countries. Leader, innovator. My name is Dismas Kisilu and I'm a goalkeeper.
When I first met Dismas, I saw him as a visionary guy when I heard what he had to say.
Even as a child, Dismas would find a problem and solve it. He's someone who's meant for great things.
Dismas Kisilu's innovation, the solar freeze, is, I believe, a game changer.
Solar Freeze is an awesome initiative that integrates solar-powered cold storage solutions, mentorship and training, and a mobile app that helps the farmers increase their incomes from their farm produce.
We were working with 3,000 farmers, and 90% reported that there was a reduction in their post-harvest loss. By 2030, we want to reach 30,000 farmers throughout Africa.
I look up to him because of the impact he has in the society.
Dismas is my role model.
I definitely feel indebted to him. He passed it to me, so I should pass it to someone else.
I visualize the future where a new generation of young Africans is leading climate smart initiatives. So we have a huge task on our hands, and I think we are up to it.
Ever since my mom told me that she felt very unfulfilled for not taking up a choice career as a secretary because my father didn't want her to, I decided I was going to make my own choices and create my own path. So unlike other kids who depended on their parents and advisors for what to study in the university, I felt I was going to do something that would be comfortable for me. And so the search began. I never want to be on call at night, so becoming a medical doctor was out of it. Neither do I want to have to take care of animals. My first choice was pharmacy. Pharmacy because growing up, I used to wonder how a chalk-like material could make people well. But when I couldn't get in to study pharmacy, I figured that the next thing would be biochemistry, because back in high school, I enjoyed that combo, biology and chemistry. So I was like, yay, biochemistry, and I put in for it. Towards the end of my final year, I began to consider community service. And so I organized training programs for undergraduates in skill acquisition. Of course, I had several skills, from baking to knitting to sewing to hairmaking. I was all over the place. So we publicized it, and people began to enroll. One beautiful Saturday morning, I got this call from a well-respected woman in my university who is, although a lecturer in a different department. She said she wanted me to train her on cardigan making. And I was really excited and honored. So not long after, she parked the car right in front of my hostel, walked into my small room, and sat on my bed. It felt super exciting. So at the end of the training, she looked at me and said, "So what do you want to do with biochemistry after you graduate?" And I was completely lost. I'd never given it a thought. So I said, I haven't figured it out yet. And she was like, okay, so why don't you think about doing something in line with agriculture? And I was like, agriculture? I had ruled that out a long time ago. I quickly remembered how back then in high school, we had the school farm, and we would go very early in the morning to do the wetting and weeding of the vegetables. Even in the afternoon, we had to peep through the classroom window to be sure that there was nobody stealing the vegetables. I don't want to go through all that anymore. So she smiled and looked at me more closely and was like, you see, I'm a microbiologist, but I also help women farmers get rid of mycotoxins in their products. You can give it a second thought. And I did just that. So what could I possibly do with biochemistry? And then I thought about developing alternatives to the currently used pesticides. This is so much needed because in developing countries, including Nigeria, where I come from, farmers are mostly uneducated in rural areas. And so they find it very difficult to follow the instructions on pesticide labels, especially when there's an outbreak of a disease or a pest, they end up spraying indiscriminately. And of course, this has implications for both health and the environment. So I decided to do some more research, and I found out that about 40% of cowpeas is lost as a result of insect pest attack and storage. Farmers lose a huge portion of their profit as a result. So I decided to design a pet project in this line. And so, on one occasion, working with my mentor, a professor of botany, I saw that in that community, people planted herbs and shrubs around their homes. I initially thought they were just for decorative purposes until I asked, and then they said, oh, this one cures malaria, this one prevents measles, this takes care of leprosy. So I pointed to the lemongrass, and they said, oh, that one repels reptiles, snakes, and the likes. I felt really fascinated. Wow, if it could actually repel reptiles, it might be able to get rid of smaller insects like weevils. So I decided to do some work on the plants in the laboratory. When I put in for my master's, it became a lot clearer, and I formed a team of 4, and we began to see what we could do with the plants. We tried a number of things, including blending the leaves and then treating infested beans with it. Of course, that did not work, because instead of the weevils dying, they were actually healthy and stronger. Of course, it was a medicinal plant. What did we expect? Okay, so I felt, let's try something else. What about extracting the bioactive components of the plants? And that was what we did. We had the option of using solvents like ethanol and hexane, which we did. The result was good, but I wasn't so comfortable with the idea of solvents, because it meant that the solvent had some impact on the results and not just the plant. So I thought of going for a distillation process using water. And we did that and obtained the distillate. So we treated infested beans with different doses of the distillate. And we obtained about 100% weevil mortality in just 1 hour of exposure. That was fantastic for us. So we thought about it. If it could actually get rid of the weevils, how about the eggs? And so we designed another group where we didn't have the weevils, but beans with the eggs on them. So we treated that with the distillate and then incubated for some days, after which we checked. And alas, the eggs didn't hatch into adults. So that means that our distillate had 100% weevil and egg mortality within 1 hour of exposure. So that felt really exciting for us. And then I thought about it. How about strengthening the effect of the distillate? So I thought of incorporating some other botanicals like the hyssop, lime, and orange peels, through the same process. And that really worked. So we needed a second opinion. And then we sent samples to a public analyst and to the Stored Product Research Institutes. They gave us fantastic results, and they were really excited. Oh, this works so well. We've not been having something like this. We've not had combos in the past, and this is really good. So because we were excited by the results, we decided to do large-scale testings, get it across to the farmers who need them. On one occasion, working with the farmers, we located a particular community in Lagelu local government area where we have beans, maize, and rice farmers. Of course, they had problem with weevils, and then we got them and said, hello, we're scientists. We have a product we'd like for you to test. Give us your feedback. You might even want to purchase from us later on. And they were really excited to associate with us. So they brought out their infested beans and then sprayed the formulated products for about 5 minutes, covered it, and then allowed it to air dry for another 5 minutes. They were really amazed by the results. And in fact, it had a sweet lemony smell, unlike the regular pesticides. So I realized that this solution, of course, is an alternative that could work anywhere in the world. When I saw the smile on their faces and how excited they were at the solution, I realized that in the end, what actually suits me is what benefits others. With biopesticides, the currently over 1.2 million organic farmers that we have worldwide can worry less about insect attacks and even do away completely with pesticides. Of course, more organic farmers will be able to come on board. Thank you.
Fantastic. Just inspirational, just absolutely inspirational. And I hope that all of you watching from across the continent are seeing what your colleagues, your peers are doing, and that you're taking inspiration from it. I can also see in the chat box, you're all connecting and talking and wanting to engage. We will do our best on our end to facilitate those connections and that engagement. So we're almost caught up to time, and I hope you're back from your break. If you missed the video, I hope you didn't, because it was actually really, really good. So let me now invite our panelists for panel number 2 to please turn on your cameras. That would be Mr. Torto, Ms. Ba, and Ms. Chachoka. Could I invite you to please turn on your cameras? And I'll invite my good friend and colleague, the moderator for the next panel, Mike Bittrick, to please turn on his video as well. And then I will turn it over to Mr. Bittrick to get things going. Mike, go on.
Yep. Thank you. Great, Monday. Thank you so much to the Wilson Center for helping us to recapture the vision of an Africa, food systems that are prosperous and climate smart, and better address the massive humanitarian challenges that are in some parts of the continent, and do it using YALI as this opportunity to reach a larger and different community of those that want to see great progress and in fact to change challenges to opportunities throughout the continent in 2021 and 2030, 2063 and beyond. As a reminder, we are live tweeting today's event and taking questions online via social media and email. If you want to tweet about the event, you may use the hashtags pound YALI for ag, pound next gen YALI, and pound International Youth Day. To send us your questions during the Q&A sessions, please tag the Wilson Center Africa program on Twitter at Africa Up Close, or send an email. And then for live Twitter updates, please follow along on social media with Africa at Africa Up Close or at YALI for Africa. And if you want to watch the event in French or Portuguese, select that language on the webinar menu. Video recordings of today's event will be available shortly after the event on the Wilson Center YALI for Ag event webpage. And if you missed the YALI 10 Summit in May, the event summary, session video recordings, and event content are still available on the Wilson Center YALI Summit webpage and on the Wilson Center YouTube channel. Did we nail it, Monday?
Yes.
Great. Okay, now let me give a little bit of as moderator. I'll take a little bit of the moderator's privilege for a couple minutes to lay out for everybody, underlining all that's been put out over this past inspiring few hours from a Washington Department of State interagency lens. The United States has really underlined during we've had the Food Systems Summit that's upcoming in September. We just had the pre-summit. And in that pre-summit, which Africa had great participation with ministers of agriculture and others in large numbers, we, the United States, underlined our deep commitment to ending hunger and malnutrition and building more sustainable, equitable, and resilient food systems at home and abroad. We do support the UN Food System Summit, and we are working with the African Union as it works on its common position regarding the Food System Summit. And we're looking forward to hearing how the process of national dialogues have gone on the continent. Haven't seen too many comments on that during the previous conversation. So if folks have some impressions, that would be useful to hear about. The U.S. is concerned about the negative trends in Africa on food insecurity and malnutrition over the past couple of years. Of course, it's COVID, it's conflict and climate, and we've lost ground on socioeconomic inequity. And then we're working with our African partners to address the problems in a comprehensive way, resolving conflict and mitigating climate-induced food insecurity and malnutrition, and building back better from COVID-19 impacts on food systems. I want to underline, we are working closely and hardly supporting, and some have mentioned here already, the African Union, the regional economic communities, and the members, the countries in Africa have had their own vision through the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program, CADP, which has been mentioned by many, which has shown a lot of progress since inception in 2003 and its revitalization in Malabo in 2014. It's really been an example of African leadership led by and supported by civil society standing up to say, yes, we see these development challenges and we have a plan and we're proceeding. Now, okay, that's a little bit of Washington's perspective. And again, we can talk further during the Q&A. In the previous panels, we heard some very pristine policy proclamations, and there were some riveting next steps for all of us to follow. And I have to say, we've all been moved by our brothers and sisters who have cleanly and eloquently marked a path forward for all of us to follow. It all seems too easy for some of the points that you have made. In our final panel, we get to see where that rubber meets the road again, or as we say in ag development, where the seed meets the soil. We have brother and two sisters representing different parts of the continent with very differing political and U.S. engagement backgrounds, Liberia, Cameroon, and Zimbabwe. I have to say, this is an aside, we're really impressed with our team here. The beauty of I want to talk about the YALI approach is that it is sought to engage all of Africa, not just political partners, but all of Africa. We do not just drop seed in the ground and hope for political rain. We join alongside you and walk with you wherever that might be. So let's now take a moment and walk alongside three agricultural innovators who have both important policy lessons, but as well to tune in carefully so that we can find practical ways we can join them in life's journey to really make a difference. And so fist bump to all of you. I want to start with our first speaker is Atim Mba. Atim is an internationally awarded woman from Cameroon who began a career in community development in 2011 and has a track record for driving social change. She comes from a farming background, and she understands how important agriculture is to alleviating poverty. He is the founder of Green Farmlands, an organization working with rural communities to improve their livelihoods. And she has also been working on ways to improve agricultural practices. One of her most successful projects, Adopt a Garden, resulted in over 150 children housed in 2 orphanages, and they're now food secure. A team has a MBA with major supply chain management, and she has a passion for community development. She has been part of some of Africa's most successful and outstanding young women with under 25, and she was driving change within her community. She was also a Mandela Washington Fellowship in 2017. So she's a woman on the move, one we want to hear from, and numerous other awards, and I think is also helped to deliver African component of the short course in agribusiness value chain in Accra, Ghana. So, Atim, please, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Michael, for the kind words and the kind introduction. I am thrilled and super excited to be here with you all. And thank you for the panelists who have gone before us. And you have set a pace, and we kind of like energized us to. I mean, we want to talk about Africa's agriculture on and on and on, and we just don't get tired about it. And to begin with, I think in my experience, well, I have a background in and I have been working in agriculture since 2017, but there's a lot I have learned in recent years. And I think it is very necessary that we begin by talking about where we are at. Because if we don't know where we are at, we won't know if we have made a move. And so there is information out there. We all know about this, about the growing population. The population of the world is expected to reach 10 billion by the year 2050, which is just around the corner. And with this growing population, there is also changing population, rapid urbanization with Africa and Asia rapidly urbanizing than other continents. And with the changing population, there's also there's also an increase in income. With an increase in income has come a change in diet. And this is where consumers come in, because consumers are the ones who are driving this change. Because we keep on working, trying to acquire more land, produce more food just to meet the needs of these consumers. And that is why we are having the impact we have on the climate. Agriculture alone and human-made activities in agriculture contribute about 30% to climate change. And so with all this knowledge, with all this information, we cannot continue business as usual. We need to re-strategize. How can we do things differently? Because we're in a continent where 70% of the population relies on agriculture for a livelihood. But if we continue business as usual, we are the continent which will be most affected. Therefore, we need to look for new ways in which we have to do things. I will be sharing my experience. Just like Michael said, I'm the founder of Green Farmlands. And Green Farmlands is a community-based organization. We work with smallholder farmers in rural communities to train them on new and improved and adaptable farm techniques. In addition to working with smallholder farmers, we also have the Adopted Garden Project, which works with orphanages to ensure food security by providing them with knowledge and resources to be food secured throughout the year. Also, we at Green Farmlands, we also have a product we call Zuna's Choice, and it's a nutritive food for children above the age of 6 months. And it is a combination of grains put together and advised by a nutritionist. It may sound very promising in the way I talk about it, but we have faced challenges as well, especially in my work working with smallholder farmers. As most of you may know, Cameroon is currently being challenged by conflict in the English-speaking regions of the country. And most of my work has been in this region. And it was very promising to engage with farmers and begin to carry out this project and then see other neighboring villages feel excited about this project. And then they engage you, they want you to come in and train them on all these new improved and adaptable farm techniques. But then at some point, I couldn't go into these communities. And like agricultural practitioners, sometimes we go through this. We're excited, the energy is there, but something comes up, natural disasters, conflict, things beyond our control, and it slows us down. These are challenges we will all experience along the way. But we just can't give up. Like the panelists before us have said, this is our home. Africa is our home, and we just can't give up on it. So we have to look for new ways. We have to re-strategize. We have to keep on pushing. And so that has been the story of my life since I began working in agriculture. We have the potential. We have what it takes. The consequences of climate change are enormous. We are the ones who will suffer from it. And so we cannot continue business as usual. We have to look for new ways in which we have to share our stories, implement all this new project, and which brings me to some of the challenges which I have experienced in my work. Like I earlier mentioned, the conflict that is plaguing the two English-speaking areas of the region. And another one is access to finance. This is the plight of most youth who are trying to implement a good agricultural project, and they get caught up at some point and they are unable to go forward. Also, we are challenged by the knowledge, the way we've been groomed to think that agriculture is only for the poor. And to an extent, we can't also blame other families that put us in this position. Even our educational system doesn't help. We talk about lucrative agriculture in other countries, but we seldom talk about agriculture in our country. And so we have to come forward with our experiences, with our success stories, and encourage the youth to make them understand there's a potential in this sector. And this is where we can invite actors like international partners to help our youth to invest, maybe say in capacity building. A lot of work is being done by the international partners, I must say, like the World Bank's African Free Trade Agreement, the Maputo Declaration we've just talked about here, and the Malabo. But we can't just leave it at that. There's still much work to be done. And so we need everyone. It is a collective effort for us all. Africa has the potential. And just like Monday said, no one should tell us that we are not enough. We have what it takes. We also have to change the way we do things. We can't continue doing business as usual. We are accustomed to doing, using the supply chain approach to agriculture, just producing and pushing into the market. But the consumer here determines a lot about what travels along the chain. And so we have to be intentional about involving all actors, the consumers and the producers, with respect to how they add value to the chain. We need to work with all of them. We need to put structures or infrastructures that encourage relationships and collaboration among partners in the chain to be able to push forward our agenda. As a YALI Mandela Washington Fellow, I have been fortunate to belong to a platform that is as rich in terms of like-minded peers. And so no one has it all figured out. We need to leverage each other's strength, and we need to complement each other's weaknesses. This is our fight, and we just can't leave it in the hands of the world or some other person to come and help us do this. And that would be my note with respect to this.
Wow, team, you've nailed it for me. Thank you for this presentation. Very clear, laying out some of the challenges. We can't give up. We need to complement one another. Really important messages for us. What I would like to do, as we see in Cameroon in West Africa, monkey de wook, baboon de chop. Very important pidgin, West African message for all of us. That is to say, if the monkey is doing all the work, the baboon is getting to get the food. And it's an important message here in that our food systems are fraying. And we need to have a new approach, not just with our pidgin West Africa English answers, but also to propagate this message beyond, that we no longer can have. We need this service more. That smallholder, that woman smallholder, that youth smallholder in Africa as part of the solution going forward. And a team, you have been part of that. Would like to see if Sar, are you able to join us from Liberia at this stage? Okay, I think we will turn it over to our next panelist, who is, since SAR is not able from Liberia, able to connect. I know that their work. Oh, okay. Thank you, SAR. You're back. SAR, I presume you've been hearing a bit of the back and forth. Would like to welcome you. Can I hear from you, SAR?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is an internet challenge, but I'm back. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Good to hear your voice. So for our second speaker, I would like to turn over to someone else who also knows a bit about Pidgin West African English, Sar, who's from Liberia. He is a USAID trained soil technician. Mahatma Gandhi said, "To forget about how to dig the earth and tend to the soil is to forget ourselves." Dr. Charles Kellogg, a soil scientist from USDA, said that basically all of our life depends on soil. You can't have life without soil, and no soil without life. They have evolved together. SAR has used his soil expertise to establish a compost development enterprise for farmers in Grand Bassa County, Liberia, as well as an ag processing snack foods company called Zebzin Food Snack. So SAR is a speaker at Grand Bassa University College, which I believe just got its accreditation as a university just this past year. So looking forward to your insights and vision, SAR. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction, and I'm happy to hear a lot of inspiring message and motivation speech. I'm so happy for this forum, and thanks to the panelists and the moderator. Really, agriculture is inspiring and is a great opportunity, and it is key in African development sector. And looking at the demographic, the climate change, the health, the conflict, and other trends consider, agriculture sector is growing when we look at production, meaning the productivity is 3 to 4 times more than any other sectoral investment. And looking at the youth, I don't think the age should be barrier for youth investment in Africa. And the issue of investment when it's come to finance and other form of support for youth is one of the main challenge in Africa. Meaning in Liberia, we also have a huge challenge to funding for youth to get funding from local banks, and they have been problem for us. But it is a way that we are trying to solve through public and private financing source, so that the people of our continent can be able to meet sustainable development goals, ranging from any hunger to improve health and provide good income to reduce poverty alleviation and reduce greenhouse gases emission in our production as we go along in the value chain. And also the aspect of financial input, which is very, very great in youth motivation in agriculture as well. And that cannot only be done with our own local government, and it can also be done in different ways, meaning looking at technology, technical capacity building through value chain, and meaning internet-friendly access, because that's one of the things I'm facing now. So even get through this media is difficult because of internet access, because I'm in the rural part of Liberia, and these are challenges, and extension work through U.S. Grant University can be done in our rural part of our country to help build capacity and introduce more mechanization for smallholder farmers as well. And policy as well. When we look at policy, we are looking at solutions for youth programs that can help to tailor and make it more innovative and inspiring for youth to get involved. And that could be another challenging because we don't have more good youth programs that have been tailored mainly to the actors who are involved in production. Meaning we have youth that are motivated, or youth that are in creative in production, but the programs that have been tailored to motivate them, to give them the opportunity, the space to act well, have been challenging as well. But I think there's hope towards that. And climate change crisis is one of the biggest threats to our livelihood in rural part of our country. It affects everyone. Which part of the world you can be found in is a greater challenge to our livelihood, because it affects our soil, it pollutes our soil, because the soil is the source of production, and that's a been challenging aspect. So in all of these things, we need solution to them, and part of the solution, we need to listen to science in the terms of climate change and food security, and we also need to know how best we can get data stations through scientific work. And I think getting this data through technology that can be present in our environment, through getting direct source from the farm and giving this information to the actors, can solve some of our problems, because they are the main source of the information. And moreover, looking at our food system, how we manage our food system, how we package them, how we store them, is challenging, because most of the time we lack access to electricity for storage, and we also lack road network on farm, meaning from the village to the farm. Some of our farm roads are not accessible, and most of the time you see farm youth walking to go to the farm, and this kind of thing make you to be more stretching and more embarrassing for youth involvement in agriculture. So farm to market road is challenging as well, but we have hope to make this work and make it more productive. And we think with the coming in of our food packaging system, advancing technology, capacity building technology that can make you to be more innovative in packaging and in storage, preservation of their produce, because no one want to be disappointed when you produce, and at the end of the day, your finished produce cannot be market. You can have market and you have the value of the product. So giving them good knowledge and training asset that can be able to transform their produce into finished value, I think this can be able to create a good encouragement for youth involvement. And that's one of the things that our initiative do. We help to package our local farmers' produce into finished product and make it into snacks and other form of commodities that can be consumed, and it can have a good market and provide income for their home and their children as well. But this testimony I see to be clear, and I see as a hope and great opportunity for African youth. And there's a lot of opportunity that we can tap on in the agriculture sector, ranging from post-harvest, packaging, and coming to the market as well. And we have a lot of great value and income coming from this sector. What I look at that YALI can do to help motivate, or the YALI network can do to help motivate youth into agriculture, is we need to have cooperative farming network. What I mean by cooperative farming network, I mean that we have group of youth. Maybe you have cutlass and I have land, and you have hoe and you have seeds. We can come together and make a farming network, and we can work together. With that, donors and international partners can be able to spotlight major actors and more youth that are engaged in the special or in a specific service and or a specific production, and they can be able to collaborate and build their skills and provide technology and enhance them with adequate knowledge as well. And moreover, international partners, they are key to other part of our initiative, meaning collaborating with government to help provide policy that can get the actors involved, that will identify challenges, that will help to provide good solutions to their own problem, because they are the one that is on the field, they are the one that doing everything that can help to solve their own problem. And that would be another good way to help change some of our narrative of agriculture in Africa, mainly among the youth, if we get the actors involved in the work, doing what is good for themselves and they think that is okay for themselves. And moreover, to conclude, and I would think that we in Africa, we are doing a great job, but we lack a lot of support and it can be done mainly to collaborative efforts on everyone. Even though we have climate change affecting our production, we have a lot of challenges, but I don't see as a challenge, I see as a motivation for us to get on board and keep on growing. Like our moderator stated earlier that we have monkey web baboon jobs talk all over. That parable or that slogan is really, really in all of our setting. The smallholder farmer are considered to be the the monkey, the other one that are doing all the kind of work and all the things, and the baboon are sitting there eating all the good chop, getting it ready and making it more good for themselves. And if you can be able to distinguish between the monkey and the baboon, because you see the monkey is looking big, and the baboon looking big, and the monkey is a little bit tiny, small, and they are the labor force. They are the strength behind the production of food in our country. But yet and still, they load us cats. They are not like people in society. So based on their look and other things, make people to think that the sector is not productive, it's not good, because they want to keep them that way. But anyway, it's coming up okay, and we are moving good, even though with the challenging. So I would like to conclude that we have huge potential in agriculture, meaning in Africa, looking at the market, looking at a huge growing population, and with our involvement, and we can tap into some of these opportunities ranging from seed quality, coming down, producing your own seeds, production, getting to agricultural production, producing vegetables, and adding innovation way that you can package for market access. I think there's a lot of way that we can have an agribusiness for youth, and we can get income and create huge employment for ourselves in Africa. Thank you.
Sar, wow. You nailed it for me, because I think what you're trying to say here is no longer should the paradigm be a monkey to walk, baboon to chop in the food systems in Africa.
Yeah.
We want to transition it to monkey to walk, monkey to chop. That is to say that it's the principle for our meeting here today is that we're trying to lift up that smallholder in Africa. And I really like a lot of your practical ideas. And also, we really do need to change the narrative. And that's been said by every speaker almost, indirectly or directly. We need to change the narrative of what it means to be in the agricultural sector, to do farming. I think last but certainly absolutely not least for our panel, I think we, with those lessons we've just heard from Team and SAR, I think we have an excellent round out of the panel by having Mercy Chetyoka Joa from Zimbabwe. Mercy, great to see you there. She is an experienced food technologist who turned farming into over 10 years of cumulative experience across multiple activities, including food processing technology. She's good on quality assurance, food safety management, systems implementation and auditing, food innovation, research and development, regulatory affairs, and food fortification. Also quite smart on sustainable food systems and occupational safety issues. She's worked for major local and international food production organizations, and she holds a master's in business administration from Clark Atlanta University in the US. And she also has a master's in food innovation from the University of Modena in Reggio Emilia in Italy. She also has done postgrad work, various stripes, and she has other professional certifications. She is a young woman farmer at heart who promotes sustainable food systems through innovative practices like climate smart agriculture and water harvesting, agroecology, e-agriculture, and others. She is an award winner and has also been a STEM advocate for girls. So really important background and experience and insights. Please, over to you for your wisdom and vision. Go ahead, Mercy.
Thank you, Mike. I'm going to take it on from my
Recording in progress. In progress. In progress.
Yeah, you should probably go ahead and shut down.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. I'm going to take it on from my mobile because I'm having issues my video, my laptop with my other device. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Thank you very much for that generous introduction, Mike. As Mike has said, I'm a food technologist by background, and I'm going to speak about opportunities and challenges in Africa that are affecting African youths in coming up and supporting their resilient agriculture system, food systems. So the majority of African economies are agro-based, whereby the 60% of the population are involved in various facets of agribusiness. This is spanning from growing, harvesting, processing, marketing, distribution, and selling of food. And that's an opportunity because we have a young population. Africa has the most youthful population in the entire world. And Sub-Saharan Africa houses about 60% of the world's remaining arable land. Hence, it has potential to feed the 10 billion people that Atim had been speaking about by 2050. If we embrace a holistic and smallholder, we still have issues again on inequality, still largely absent in most Africa have.
I'm not hearing you, Mercy.
Where most African cultures have deep-seated patriarchies and gender disparities that are still at play, regardless of having about 30% of women involved in agriculture as the labor force. Women still lack access to land, finance, technology, and institutional support, as well as markets for their produce. And this support is very limited. If you're looking at it from a Zimbabwean perspective, if I want to come closer to home.
Recording in progress.
Continue, Mercy. You're coming in really well. I want to hear this.
Sub-Saharan Africa is home. Okay, thank you. Sub-Saharan Africa is home to about 60% but yet the continent struggles to feed itself and remains a net importer of its own food. And somebody was mentioning that hunger is killing so many people in Africa, more than COVID-19 is doing. With regards to resolutions of what we've been doing with the work that I do, we've addressed this by promoting youth and women involvement in serious agricultural production, business, and a career path. This we've done with the work that we do with the Federation of Young Farmers Club Zimbabwe, of which I am a president to that club, which is an coveted accolade for a group of individuals who have shown remarkable contributions to the gender of their involvement in agriculture. We've also managed to change the face of the agriculture sector, from showcasing old, tired and faces to young, energetic faces who are, by the way, living testimonials of excelling young farmers on promotional materials, making it look sexy, for lack of a better word, and featuring successful young women and young farmers. In Zimbabwe, I'm happy and very proud to say that we have the Ministry of Agriculture is the only ministry that has the youngest permanent secretary and deputy minister in the entire cabinet. These are young farmers who are part of our organization, who are nominated based on merit, judging from the work that they've been doing in advancing the youth. Also, the Ministry of Agriculture has a youth desk dedicated to youth and farmer engagement, and this was birthed from our own lobbying. We formed young farmers clubs and women farmers that are helping in making agriculture look attractive, have improved in food security in Zimbabwe, with currently most contributions to the national granary being from these young farmers, as well as in having a collective voice for lobbying for better conditions in policies to enable increased production through access to land, finance, and institutional support. We've, from the work that I do, I've learned that when economically empowered, women and or agripreneurs, female agripreneurs, if I want to refer to them as that, they reinvest in their communities, leading to greater self-reliance. We've also, part of the success stories of the work that I do is that we've been advocating and advancing the need for food safety protocols and increased demand for safe food and nutrition-sensitive agriculture. That's in Zimbabwe. We've also managed to help in improving the herds, community herds in some areas where I actively participate because I'm a farmer. So we've improved the community herds by investing in hybrid bulls, which are shared by communities, and thereby improving the herd in terms of size, disease resistance, meat quality, and their breeding stock. And then when they're going to the market, they fetch more on the market. We've also managed to coordinate and establish production hubs through aggregation of volumes for better market price lobbying and supply. And we've also linked young youth and women and other smallholder farmers to viable markets outside the public markets through farmer organizations and capacity building on premium and export quality market requirements and paving linkages to these viable markets, thereby improving food security. We've also helped other young farmers and smallholder farmers to curb food waste by teaching them simple processing technologies. I'm a food technologist by background and training. So we train them to do drying, to make preserves, pickles with excess fruits and vegetables, juices and powders that they are then selling and also value adding to their produce. I believe that we've also helped young farmers and youths to be export ready and to attain food safety, quality, and global gap certifications. I believe the role of international partners is in providing financial support as seed funding for improved production, capacity investments in efficient irrigation systems, greenhouses, farming mechanizations, drying, processing facilities, and new technology adaptations. We've also, I believe also partners, international partners play a key role in assisting governments in developing, reviewing, implementing tailor-made policy solutions at community and country levels that are suited for their various different circumstances and environments. Africa is huge, but we have different circumstances depending from which country you're operating from. For me, I see opportunities for YALI, mostly because of the power. Don't underestimate the power that is in the numbers that YALI has and the strength of our network. So for YALI, I feel the opportunities lie in information dissemination and capacity building by actively encouraging adoption of and use of hybrid seeds, climate resilient varieties, water harvesting technologies, consistent and correct use of chemical fertilizers, irrigation technologies, food waste reduction, and green technology usage. I also believe for the general youth, there is a huge potential in that we need to change the narrative of the African agriculture from using primitive technology to embracing new improved technologies. We need to take advantage of the African Free Continental Trade Agreement and be involved in the food system by being at the heart of the production and transformation. And then we change from being net importers to feeding the whole world through the intercontinental trade as well as international trade. For my fellow women, I would love to say that the dawn of female agripreneurship is upon us. So let's take advantage of the various grants, the opportunities that are there, and we get involved. We fully become part of the narrative and fully get involved in the food production systems. Forms like the Value for Hair Connect by Agra, IFPRI. There's so many opportunities out there. And I also believe we need to get involved in food systems by embracing new technologies, new agriculture technologies, biotechnology, agroecologies, economic ecosystem services, and promoting value addition and nutrition sensitive agricultural systems. Because I believe that we have that potential as youth. And we have that potential because we are still energetic, we still have life, we can adopt to many technologies regardless of where we are operating from. With that, I thank you.
Mercy, wow, thank you very much. I think most of my head exploded. I don't know about others, but it's so much that you've laid out before us. Very clear, some very clear path, and some really creative and important ideas for us to consider, especially your focus on women and how women agripreneurs can get more engaged. Not to be fearful of biotechnologies and your promotion of value added on the chain, the entire chain, so critical. Africa cannot own the food system if others are owning the value chain. So thank you for this call. And it's not a controversial call. You've said things that are very forward-leaning and positive and proactive, and should not be to any of us things that are surprising, and I think very open and transparent way. We've got some really interesting conversation here to follow. We have some time before we wrap up, so we have the opportunity for some of the key questions there that we can pose to our panelists. There seems to be a lot about the narrative and getting more access to land, education, and the narrative, putting a better trajectory in those spaces from a policy perspective and from an on the ground perspective. I would like to provide an opportunity, team, if you make any comments on education, access to land, and the narrative behind food systems. If you have some thoughts, I would love to hear.
With respect to the narrative, I think that it's been a long time we have been engineered to think that agriculture is only for the poor. And like Mercy rightly said, we need to make agriculture sexy. And that is because most times people have very little knowledge about the opportunities within the agricultural sector or within the food system. And I think that if we could have maybe platforms where people are being educated, each and everyone has a role to play. You just need to identify which one suits you best along the value chain, and then you work from that area. So not everyone needs to be in the farm. You could pick up maybe like the transformation, packaging, just something along the value chain. There is room for everyone to be along the value chain, but we need to change the narrative. Everyone eats. So why do we think that agriculture is for the poor? Everyone needs food, so it's a lucrative business. So, but we need to change the way we see it. And it's up to us, the practitioners, how we communicate it as well, how we communicate our success stories, our struggles, the challenges, and our opportunities. That's the only way people who are not in it can see it and be like, okay, there is something good about this, and I need to get engaged and all of that. So, in my opinion, I think there's a lot for everyone to do in the agricultural sector, but not necessarily communicating the picture of it being permit me say, dirty business or shabby business. And sometimes too, it's about the promotional materials that maybe some organizations use on the media. You always see a woman in agriculture, it's always maybe some old woman wearing some torn clothes or something like that and looking all poor and haggard. But that is not agriculture. There is more to agriculture than what you see. So, but we just can't continue looking at it from a distance. We need to come closer and be like, okay, this is what agriculture is. Like my mother always say, agriculture of the century is keyboard agriculture. but there is more to it than that. So yeah, we need to really change the narrative, and it's up to us who are actually living it and experiencing it and working in it and succeeding in it. It's up to us to change the narrative.
Great. Thank you for that encouragement. It is almost bizarre. If you think about what is the most lucrative sector which to engage and invest in the developing world, it's agriculture. The food systems is 2 to 4 times more productive of an investment from both a public or private investment than the other sectors. And yet, where is the money? Where are the resources? It's an important question, and making it sexy is one thing, but then making sure that the financing is available, arguing the case from a return on investment, from a financing perspective is important for the future on this one. Let us take a moment to talk about another lot of questions coming in. Of course, how do we make agriculture a practical subject in the public schools and have students exit with a skill that they will enhance and use in colleges and universities? Are there things that we can do to increase youth programs and look at the challenge of water scarcity? So kind of throw a basket of issues there, but focusing a little bit on the education sector and how we can do more. Any thoughts, Sar or Mercy or team?
Let me come in to that.
Okay, please, Sar, go ahead.
When we look at art schools and can get involved into agriculture as a practical subject, I think that can be the beginning for motivating youth in agriculture, because when they start at that level, they can be inspiring, they can know what's going on. And to do that, I think we should involve it in a more technological way, that they can use more technology device, collecting soil moisture, looking at the temperature of the soil, things that inspire them to be more innovative, to be more part of it, that they think that it's coming up to be something good. Because agriculture is also like a science. It has a lot of good data information that students can learn from. They can analyze and get good data information that can help to build their IQ, and they can help to get them to know what in the sector as well, maybe in the future. So giving them more practical devices, applying them to a small size plot farm on their school as a practical farm, applying the devices that can read the period data from the farm on the plant aspect, the soil aspect, the water aspect. I think that kind of lesson and that kind of data coming from them, analyzing the snow, be inspired to do agriculture, and they can be more motivation when it comes to agriculture subject.
Okay, great. Those are some really practical ideas working at the sort of lower levels. Mercy, I'm wondering, given the ag minister's impact in Zimbabwe, in Zimbabwe, is the education ministry involved in some of the food systems and nutrition work that the Zimbabwean government is doing?
Thank you, Mike. So for us, it's a different story because I think we are already a leap forward as Zimbabwe. Agriculture as a subject is a mandatory subject from primary level through to secondary and university and tertiary education. And with regards, most of the policy frameworks that are happening and the transformatory work, we've had strategies, the agricultural transformation strategy. And with that strategy, the heart of implementation is the Ministry of Agriculture, which the Ministry of Education, which is a good platform for already putting that out as a mandatory aspect to kick on towards the development of transforming food systems. As we look at it, Zimbabwe is involved in the UN pre-summit conversations, and you find that when they are having the conversation as a country, there is a multi-sectorial approach to it, whereby we have the Ministry of Education, we have the Ministry of Youth, we have the Ministry of Women Affairs, we have the Ministry of Agriculture, we have the private sector, we have almost everyone involved in most of coining the policies and the strategies and the implementation aspect. And the key performance indicators are highlighted by sector representations that are active. And so the follow-up is very real. And it's not just a talk show business, but it's actually something that is already on the ground. What we are just left with now is getting the productivity up there, which is where we are saying we're calling on international partners to say, come in and invest in youth, in agriculture, especially in Zimbabwe. We are very capable. I think we are one of the governments or the countries that have young women and youths that are fully involved and actively involved in food production and food systems. Thank you.
That's a really inspiring and important policy and practical overlay on how African education systems can work better to support agriculture. And I suspect if we had an opportunity, we'd have good insights how the education ministries are positive agents for change in this space. But let's make sure we continue to think through this and have thoughts about this. One of the questions that's come up, and I mentioned it earlier, is that of financing, both public and private. If you look at any food systems analyses, you need to have not just private, not just public support for agriculture to really have food systems transformation, given concerns about COVID, given concerns about climate change, given concerns about conflict. What can we do to ensure that we can heighten the levels of financing? The CADEP has a mark the CADEP policy framework marks 10% of the public budget in Africa should be for agriculture. It makes great sense. How many countries in Africa right now meet that 10%? Like 3 or 4. 3 or 4. 10 years after working toward 10% of the budget. So we've got some work to do on the policy side, and this is, information raising side, but we also want to make sure that we can leverage and take advantage of private sector. So public sector, encourage our politicians to follow through on the things they've agreed to. In the private sector, what are the things that we can do to enhance the financial framework here so that we can improve prospects and have a long-term and sustainable approach on the financing side. Mercy or SAR or a team, any thoughts from you all on that would be, whoever's got a hand raised first, I'll go to you.
Okay, so I'll jump in for that one. Apparently, for the first time in so many years, Zimbabwe's budget for agriculture transformation and improved productivity has been huge this year, which is a very positive plus for us. And they've put in different financial players to come to the aid of agriculture productivity enhancement. The government has recently formed what's called the Agriculture Transformation Bank, the AFC Bank, and the Youth Bank has come in as well. And there's also the Women Development Bank. All these have come in with financial support for youths and young farmers and for women farmers as well. So, and we've also had even the parent party, the ruling party, coming in with initiatives for women land apportionment. So for us, this is a huge positive for changing food system transformations, because already we are stepping towards capacitating youths, capacitating females, and making sure they do not talk about so many challenges, but they have a lot at their disposal. So I think this is something that is already on the positive side with the new government that is the ruling government at present.
Helpful insights. Anything else from you, team? Looks like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to add another area where the private sector could come in. It's through pre-financing, and maybe working with companies, maybe big companies that use agriculture, put maybe some cap, say like 50% of their raw material should be sourced from within the country where they are operating. And that way they put the companies in the position where they work with these smallholder farmers, maybe put them together in groups or cooperative, and then pre-finance. That way they can produce maybe based on their standards or quantity to pre-finance, and then they work, and then they grow this raw material which they use, and then give all is taken back, and they collect it all back from this summer. So I think another way could be for these private companies to pre-finance the smallholder farmers.
Okay, good, very helpful additional suggestions here. This is really a hard one. And again, we will not have sustainable financing situation until we have both the public and the private sector engaging fully. I'd say also, mentioned earlier in the chat that there is the Africa-led, the Africa Green Revolution Forum Summit is going to be held next month in early September. Will be virtually and in Nairobi, and that the AGRF Summit is an opportunity where Africa leads and brings together private and agripreneurs and other stakeholders supporting African food systems all together in one space. And it's happening the second week of September. And I encourage you all to consider that engagement. They're wondering how much more time do we have? I don't want to go over before we wrap up.
You have about 12 minutes, Mike.
All right, great. We have lots of very interesting questions, trying to get it boiled down. I think the ones on climate change probably would like to, I think we touched around this a bit. Like to see if there's interest in being able to talk about climate smart agriculture. Are there tools that are not being made available to you because of a lack of finance on the tools and the seeds, seed varieties, other things to help ensure greater access to these tools so that we can do climate smart agriculture? What other ways can we assist smallholder farmers in Africa to both mitigate and appropriately adapt to the climate crisis? So who would like to take that question? It's very easy. You should be able to answer it in 30 seconds.
Okay. Basically, part of my cooperative initiative in the climate smart agriculture system, we try to get farmers involved into soil testing because we have noticed that bulk of the soil have been polluted to acidic rain, and it has decreased the soil pH to below 4, and that has been showing great effect in their production. And through our cooperative effort, and we advise that they should be able to do soil testing in order to do production. So in order to get smallholder farmers involved to do climate smart farming, I would advise, or I would recommend that they have extension service that will do soil testing for them before doing or starting production. This will help to give them their challenges and help to recommend what to be added and how to do it to be better for them.
Thank you, Sar. Any extra 30 seconds, Mercy or a team? Okay.
I believe that this is an active response that is required from a policy perspective. If they consciously put down, if they consciously put together practices for extension workers to be capacitated to roll out conservative agriculture, to roll out climate resilient and smart agricultural practices, you'll find that you capacitate smallholder farmers because they form of the farmers that are involved in food production in Africa. So a lot of the work needs to be with the extension workers that deep down in the rural areas, deep down to the smallholder farmers, and not only limited to high technological interventions, because those high technological interventions will not reach where they are required the most, which is the smallholder farmers. So you need to break it down, because if you look at it, if most of the technological interventions are highly technical and are mostly suited for commercial farmers, it will not bring any positive change to the food systems in Africa, because most of the food production is by the smallholder farmers. So we need to break it down and to bring it down to grassroots and make sure that all technologies, for example, mechanization, we bring in two-wheelers which are suitable for smallholder farmers. We bring in center pivot irrigation systems that are adaptive to the smallholder farmers, and not the huge capital intensive ones, because they will not cut the chase. So basically, extension workers need to be capacitated to bring it down to the smallholder farmers and to the grassroots and rural populace. For example, in Zimbabwe, we already have what they call a conservation agriculture practice that they call Fumvudza, which is zero tillage for a zero tillage practice. And that you find that the way it's being used, and they're using mostly organic manure. and ash from is lime, and then you find that the amount of chemical fertilizer that is being used is quality, and the yield is very high. And need for use of hybrid seeds and climate adapted seeds for better disease resistance. This is all work that is mostly disseminated by extension workers. So there's a lot that is needed in terms of capacity building for our extension workers to reach smallholder farmers and give them suitable technologies that are adaptable to them and their requirements. Thank you.
And I just wish to add that whatever interventions that are designed for these smallholder farmers, we need to understand that they are the ones living the realities. And sometimes what we think are their challenges are not actually their challenges. So whatever interventions that are designed for these smallholder farmers should be done with their consent, or we should go right down there and ask them what are the challenges they are facing. What do they think? Because sometimes they even have the best answers to their solutions, but to their problems, but they don't just have the capacity, or they don't have the resources to carry it out. So whatever interventions we are designing for these smallholder farmers, they should be involved in picking out the solutions and in making sure we just don't go there and give interventions, but then even after we are not there, it is of use to that community.
Great. Yes, we need practical solutions that are locally owned, locally adopted. I have the honor and privilege of having to summarize all that we've discussed in this panel and beyond. Would like to do that in a couple minutes, and then we'll turn it back over to a team and Mercy and Sar to give us your 1 minute of inspiration, if that works. And we have the opportunity to work closely, even though I'll be doing the summary for everybody. There are points that even as we're talking, we're jogging each other's memories, and this sort of collective memory or exercise, this collective exercise is producing a lot of new ideas and interesting ideas. I think number one, clearly the agricultural sector and agriculture, aquaculture represent a key sector with Africa's demographic, health, conflict, and other trends considered. Agricultural sector-led growth is 2 to 4 times more productive than other sectoral investments. Number two, there should be no barriers to age for youth to engage the agricultural sector in Africa, including in agriculture and food policy. Third, Africa's agriculture and food systems landscape is ready for both public and private sector financing, so that the continent and its people can meet SDGs ranging from ending hunger to improved health to poverty alleviation to reducing greenhouse gases. Number four, these financial inputs will be readily received, as we've heard from all of our panelists today. They'll be readily received, and in many cases, will result in a return on investment. We have to provide a comprehensive solution, and we need access to finance through local banking, for example. Number five, in addition to financing, the youth in Africa's agriculture and food systems need access to technology and technical capacity building throughout the value chain, internet-friendly ag extension work through through YALI and U.S. land grant universities will bring great returns on investment. Also, was mentioned toward the end in the last panel, road networks by SAR. In particular, road networks should be improved as well to expand smallholder access to markets. And then Mercy mentioned mechanization for smallholder farmers too. Another key point, policy solutions to youth programming have to be tailored at the local level and have to be formulated and implemented through inclusive dialogue with youth, and have to be not the youth aren't brought into the conversation after the adults make the decisions. The youth are part of the whole policy framework. I think that's been said by everybody. Another point, very clear, the climate crisis is the biggest threat to our livelihoods and affects everyone in different ways. Therefore, mitigation solutions have to integrate science and data and be tailored to local circumstance for better livelihoods. And then sort of a subset to this, the climate crisis cannot be addressed without managing greenhouse emissions, as food systems represent 1/3 of greenhouse gases. And we have to listen to science in terms of the climate change and food security. We have to deal with seed and soil policy and regulations. Another point that was made, food systems and food systems policy should be inclusive and evidence-based. I mentioned that already. I just want to underline this as we're thinking through this. It has to be a multi-stakeholder effort with Africa leading the way. One of the key points that have been made all along is about CAADP. I wanted to just mention that we do believe very much that CAADP is a key policy effort, and that CAADP, and just to underline to everybody, CAADP has from the very beginning had 7 major approaches that are taken. It looks at mutual accountability. It seeks to have poverty in the ag sector by half, have poverty broadly by half. It seeks to greatly increase ag-led growth, 6% a year through inclusive agriculture. 6% a year. We're falling short. Number 4, it seeks to triple the amount of trade in the ag sector and net food systems, triple it by 2025. Number 5, we mentioned this before, the countries are supposed to be allocating 10% of their budget to agriculture. 6, we're supposed to end hunger by 2025, and as we mentioned, this includes stunting, et cetera. We've really lost a lot of ground on that one. And then finally, again, the CAADP plan has a very robust approach to enhancing resilience to climate shocks. That's a 7th pillar, and one that we need to remind ourselves and our politicians, but also at the local levels, make sure that we are taking advantage of that framework. So, would like to see at this stage whether there's any, our panelists, the 3 panelists are ready for their 1 minute of inspiration. Are we allowed that Monday at this stage?
Absolutely. You are spot on. Fantastic panel again. I want to give my 2 sisters and my brother the opportunity to close us off with their words of inspiration, but also just thank you to you, Mike, and to this panel for continuing on and building on to what has been really a very deep, inspiring, forward-leaning discussion. And hopefully that you will be able to continue with this going forward. So over to you, Tim, Mercy, and Assad to give us your 1 minute words of inspiration to close us off.
Please, Atim.
Yes, thank you very much, Moni. To all listening at this moment, I just want us to know that as much as we have a growing population and a changing population, let's focus on the opportunities that come. It's challenging with everything that's happening, climate change and all of that, with the conflict and all of that. But then with every challenges, we should always focus on the opportunities. And from there, we can build resilient agricultural food systems. So let's not focus on the challenges, let's focus on the opportunities. And we'll pull through this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, team. Sar?
Yeah. To close up, I would like each and every youth in Africa to be inspiring when it comes to agriculture, because the future is in agriculture. When it comes to our growing population, our consumer demands, there's a huge potential opportunity in agriculture. So ranging from different sectors along the value chain. We as youth can look into what best that suit us and get into it. It can be a little from the keynote speaker, you start from somewhere and get to somewhere. So let's look at it as a maybe new generation point and be able to get to it and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sar. Thank you very much. And Mercy.
For me, my parting shots will be that for youth out there, be the part of the revolution that work in acres and not in hours. Come in and be actively involved in resilient, inclusive food system transformations. For women who are listening and who are out there, please, we are the untapped potential in ending the hunger plight and poverty plight of Africa. Let's jump to the challenge and change the narrative. Let's come in, let's make farming sexy for generations to come by being involved as young people in the production. The money is there. Agriculture is a lucrative business and an attractive career path. Thank you.
There you have it, Monday. Monkey de work, monkey de chop. Back over to you.
Thank you so much. We could not have asked for a better discussion, a more informative discussion. And I just want to take this opportunity, first of all, to thank the Department of State for putting together this YALI program, for having the vision and for implementing it the way it's been implemented to reach and touch so many lives across the African continent. The small investment that the U.S. has made in Africa's youth is bearing fruit, as we have seen today. And the question is, how do we build on that and continue to share and amplify? To the speakers, absolutely fantastic job. You guys were just absolutely fantastic, did everything plus more that we asked you for. So thank you so much for your contributions and for really carrying this discussion and for pushing the discussion forward on all of the key issues that we wanted to touch on. Again, to the YALI Advisory Council, thank you so much for your contributions and input into this. Whether we're talking about the 10th anniversary summit or this event, we could not have succeeded without your input. And to our Department of State team, Liz, Brenda, Michael, and everybody else that has been working with us on this, just absolutely thank you. To the Wilson Center team, the AV team, don't know what we'll do without you guys. I just really thank you so much for helping us work through our issues this morning, for enabling us to have this discussion. We appreciate you. So thank you, Africa Program team. Thank you so much. Most importantly, thank you to all of you, the participants who turned up from around the continent and here in the United States to contribute to and participate in this event. This was just the start. So please continue the dialogue. The video recordings of today's event will be available shortly in a few days on the Wilson Center website. So please do come back and tune into that and share that video link. We will also pull together all of the messages that we saw you typing into the chat box, because what we saw there was a desire to share knowledge and to connect. So we will pull that together and make that accessible to all of you so you can figure out what you do with that. And to figure out what you do with that is do precisely what you've been doing in this session. And to all of the participants, whether you're African or American, we ask you to be engaged in this sector. Whatever you can do on your corner of the world, whatever that little corner may be, to really push forward on this issue, to invest in Africa's youth, to work whether at the policy level or at the practitioner level to advance the transformation of Africa's agricultural sector. We are all in. and we will cheer you on and work with you and all of that. For now, let me just say, please stay on. We're not quite done. I would like all of the speakers from this morning to just turn on your cameras very quickly, whether it's the keynote speaker, panel 1, panel 2, Liz and Brenda, if you're still around, please turn your cameras on. Would like to take a photo, and then I'll introduce the next segment of the program. So could we have the speakers please turn on their cameras for that photo? Sarah, can you turn on your... All right. We have a few of the speakers here. I'm not seeing everybody, but let's take what we can. I don't know who's taking the photo and how you want to do that. Hannah, can you give us a little bit of direction here?
Sure. I will just count down. Ready? 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you.
All right. Fantastic. And now, oh, actually, I'm so sorry. I forgot to thank a couple of people before we take off. The interpreters and the sign language team, thank you so much. It is so important that we communicate across these language barriers. And this was a much more inclusive engagement because of the work that you all were doing in the background. So thank you so much for that. So to bring this event to a close, but certainly this is not the end, it's the beginning, is we have a 15-minute video presentation on YALI cultural content to celebrate YALI. And so we invite all of you to please stay tuned as we begin this 15 minutes of cultural entertainment and cultural content for you to engage with. So I will say bye for now, but I hope you will stay tuned for this excellent video that you will find inspiring. So thank you, everyone, and stay tuned for the videos. And we will see you next time at the next African Youth and YALI gathering. But enjoy the video.
We've been celebrating the 11th year of the Young African Leaders Initiative while uniting on a world front to support young people's voices, actions, and engagement for International Youth Day. You can't have a celebration without music and entertainment, so it's time we shine a light on some of our artistic youth leaders. My name is Wordsmith, and I'll be your host alongside my partner, DJ Invisible. We will be showcasing YALI artist accomplishments through music videos and performances. DJ Invisible likes to call this the YALI mixtape, so I hope you enjoy the mix of artists and their stories. First up is Grace Jerry. She is a 2015 alumni of the Mandela Washington Fellowship, a gospel singer, and a disability rights activist from Nigeria. Grace created the YALI anthem and had the honor of introducing Barack Obama during a gathering of 500 young African leaders in 2015. Please enjoy.
Thanks, Wordsmith. Let's go ahead and get right into the music. YALI 21 mixtape. Let's go, Grace Jerry.
Yes, we can. Sure, we can change the world.
Grace Jerry. Grace Jerry.
Yes, we can. Sure, we can change the world. Yes, we can. Sure, we can change Africa. It go happen, no. Yes, it go happen, no. It's a world filled with darkness everywhere, but I see the light. Not from the north, the south, the east, or the west, but from within you. Bring it out, let it shine. Bring it out, let it work. I see a great you, I see a great me, I see a great us. I see a great continent, I see great nations. I see people whose existence cannot afford to be ignored. Not by any nation of the world, not by any race. see great Africans as we emerge. Yes, we can, sure we can change the world. Yes, we can, sure we can change Africa. It go happen, no. Yes, it go happen, no. Believe, yeah, 'cause it go happen, no. Believe, 'cause it go happen, no.
Yes, indeed. Thanks, Grace Jerry. That's the way to get it started off. Wordsmith, who we got coming up next?
Next, we have Douglas Ogutu. He is currently working on a project for up-and-coming artists in the slums. With the help of the YALI Transformation Fund, the year-long project will see that young rappers collaborate on a 12-track album. It will be recorded and produced at Douglas's Dow Music and Art Studio under the flagship program, Art for Leadership. Please enjoy.
Douglas Ogutu. This is going in the right direction, Yali. So check it out. We're going to keep this party going. Wordsmith, who we got coming up next?
Next, I would like to introduce Kasi Mark. He's a Fellowship and Yes Academy alumni from Uganda with a love for breakdancing. Orphaned at the age of 15, Kasi had devoted his life to helping kids who went through the same life experience. Today, he works with local and international schools, community centers, orphanages, prisons, drug rehabilitation centers, children's homes, and more. So please enjoy.
Greetings. I welcome you to the YALI Network anniversary. My name is Kawese Mark, a YALI 2016 alumni from Uganda. I am a creative, a breakdancer, an events organizer, and a creative facilitator. I am also a member of Breakdance Project Uganda, a chairman of Breakfast Jam annual breakdance event, and a founder of Imagination Circle Limited.
1, 2, 3, 4, and...
Breakfast Jam is an annual breakdance and urban culture event or festival that we've been running for 10 years. Our focus is to use art, to use breakdance, to use hip-hop, to use urban culture to bring together young people that are interested and have talents and passion in those art elements to come together, to exchange, connect, and learn from each other through workshops, through showcases, through battles, through competitions, through performances, and through other means of exchange. And we've been able to bring together so many young people from Uganda and outside to exchange and promote themselves through this platform.
What's up, y'all? My name is Kawesi Mark, a YALI 2016 fellow from Uganda. I want to give a very big shout out to this great organization, the YALI Network, for making 10 years in service. 10 years, people.
All right, that's my man right there. Kawesi Mark. Yo, I've been working with him for months now and did not know he was a b-boy and that he has skills like that. I was warming up. I was getting ready to challenge him. And then I saw in the video he was spinning on his head. So I decided to back down because we'd have to call an ambulance and we'll just keep it. We'll keep the party moving. And speaking of the medical profession, Wordsmith, who we got coming up next?
It's my pleasure to introduce our next YALI artist. Dr. Chidani Catherine Mbenge won first prize at the YALI 10 Poetry Competition and 2019 Public Management Fellow. She is currently completing her Master in Medicine, specializing in public health medicine at the University of Botswana. She is a student mentor through Bound by Love and is involved with community development projects in her home village and Makamgwani Train Organization. Please enjoy.
Today I'll be reciting my poem, The Shy Girl Who Refuses to Die Shy, which just won first position in the YALI at 10 competition, about the impact that YALI had on my life. Despite the palpitations, the stomach knots, I breezed through leadership, for I'm a YALI alumni that discovered that I can be a leader on my own right. I do not have to pretend to be somebody else. I can be the best version of myself. I was born, but we cannot judge a fish for its flying capabilities when its strength is in swimming. Harmony, responsibility, analytical, developer, consistency are the key Gallup 15 strengths that I capitalize in. Equity, health, integrity, humility, empathy are the core values that I live by. I'm a public health specialist in the making. I speak health system strengthening and management. I speak evidence-based policies and interventions. Best practices from YALI leadership in public management. Best practices from Atlanta, home of the largest public health institute. The inspiring and mesmerizing visit to CDC Atlanta. I dream of the birth of Botswana Public Health Institute, of CDC Botswana.
Oh my goodness, I'm so glad that you were able to catch up with me. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Poem had, do you remember there was some noises that were happening in the poem?
Oh yes, those are this is what we call ululations in Botswana. So if you listen to any of our traditional poems, we have somebody doing the ululating after every stanza, like
Tell me how to do it right now. You said you're not good at it. I've never done it. Go for it. Come on.
It's just something like yeah, something like that.
There it is. All right, Doc. So next time you do a poem, let me know, and I'll be right there with you doing the ululations.
Yes.
It's an honor for me to get a chance to talk to you. I'll look forward to seeing you in person at some point in time down the line.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks again, Dr. C. You are amazing. So next, we're going to keep it going. We only have time for one more. So Wordsmith, who we got coming up next?
Coming up next is Lamborghini. He is a Nigerian singer and youth prison reformer who mixes inspirational and uplifting lyrics with catchy Afrobeat rhythms. Lambo was also a humanitarian and has used his star power to advocate for young people in prison in Nigeria. His nonprofit called SALT, Saving All Lives Together, raises money to bring music therapy programs to Nigerian youth prisoners. Please enjoy.
I believe in a
Africa. I believe in Africa. I believe in Africa. I believe in you. I believe in Africa. I believe in Africa. I believe in Africa. I believe in you. Yeah. If we fall, we will rise again. Like the stars, we will shine again. We may cry, but we'll smile again. Africa will rise again. Yes, you can. Yes, I will. Fight my way through the storm. Yes, I can. Yes, I will. With the children of the future. Yes, I can. Yes, I will. It's your time to take control. Take control. What are you waiting for? I believe in Africa. I believe in Africa. I believe in Africa. I believe in you. Yali, yali, yali. Yali, yali, yali. Young African leaders. Young African leaders. Yali, yali, yali. Yali, yali, yali. Young African soldiers. Young African soldiers. Yali, yali, yali. Yali, yali, yali. Young African leaders. Young African leaders. Yali, yali, yali. Young African soldiers. Young African soldiers. Young African leaders. Young African soldiers.
Yes, indeed. YALI 21, let's go. I had a good time. They're telling me that I have to stop playing music right now, but I love playing music, and the artists that were performing were amazing. It just makes me feel good. So from my man Wordsmith, DJ Invisible, we both had a great time and appreciate everybody behind the scenes that put this program together. I'm going to play some more music. Let's go, YALI!
Yali, yali, yali. Yali, yali, yali. Yali, 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 yali. Yali, 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 yali. Yali, 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 yali. Yali, 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 yali. I believe in Africa.
YALI 21, my name is DJ Invisible. For my man Wordsmith, peace!
I believe in Africa. I believe in you. Yeah. Mama, mama, mama. Yeah.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Couldn't have said it better. I believe in Africa. I believe in youth. It's your continent. Go make the change that we all know you can make. You will be able to do this. You got this. We believe in you. And with that, we'll bring proceedings to close. Liz Liu has put in the chat box a link to the video. So please share it widely. Please share it as widely as you can. You'll have a moment to capture that link and share with your peers, with your colleagues, with others as widely as you can. But with that, we will bring this to a close. Thank you very much. Go and do what we know you are capable of doing and transform that agricultural sector. Own the future of the continent. It is yours. So goodbye and see you next time. And thank you so much again.